Chapter 3264. White Crane Island. From afar, it looked like a huge white crane standing on the surface of the sea. The island was lush with vegetation and steep mountains. Clang! Suddenly, accompanied by a loud sound, a stone door opened. What is that? The sea beasts on the island raised their heads to look at the stone door, their eyes filled with bewilderment. Following that, two figures walked out from the stone door and stood in the sky above White Crane Island. One was dressed in white and had an imposing appearance. The other was dressed in black and looked cynical. That's right. These two people were Madman and Qin Feiyang. White Crane Island. Madman looked at the island curiously and laughed. Sure enough, the island lives up to its name. But how far is this place from Sky Cloud Island? How would I know? Qin Feiyang was like a noob when it came to the Sky Cloud Sea. He knew nothing about it. Moreover, they had used the space-time gate to teleport here, so how could they know the distance between White Crane Island and Sky Cloud Island? Then, Qin Feiyang put away the space-time gate and looked at the sea beasts below, saying indifferently, I am Qin Feiyang. Now, I officially announce that White Crane Island belongs to me. If you don't want to die, then scram. Qin Feiyang. The pupils of the sea beasts on the island shrank and they fled in panic. In less than a few breaths of time, White Crane Island, which was originally filled with sea beasts, turned into an empty island. You're really overbearing. Madman pouted. I just don't want to implicate them. After all, the possibility of a battle is very high. And now, there might already be someone hiding in the dark. That's why I have to be overbearing and let them think that I just hate these sea beasts. This way, they won't be suspicious. Qin Feiyang transmitted his voice. Madman scanned the surrounding space as his eyes flickered. Don't release your divine sense, so as not to alert the enemy. Qin Feiyang secretly said. Got it. Madman nodded and the two of them landed on a mountain peak. This mountain peak was the highest point on White Crane Island. Standing here, one's field of vision was very wide, and one could clearly see everything around them. Madman looked at the sea before him and suddenly sent a voice transmission. Isn't it a little too cruel for Yi Tian to watch the entire process? He's an adult. No matter how cruel it is, he has to face it bravely. Furthermore, I did not keep him by my side only for him to watch. Qin Feiyang thought. What else do you want to do? Madman was suspicious. You'll know soon enough. Qin Feiyang revealed an unfathomable smile. So mysterious. Madman rolled his eyes at him. Black Tortoise World. Elder Hua also looked at Yi Tian and said earnestly, Yi Tian, you have to be mentally prepared. I'm afraid what's going to happen next will be somewhat cruel to you. Cruel? Yi Tian was stunned. Yes. Elder Hua nodded. Senior Hua, please don't scare us. The green-clothed woman looked at Elder Hua nervously. Elder Hua smiled faintly and did not speak again. He raised his head and silently looked at the image in front of him. Time slowly passed. Swish. Suddenly, in the image, a stone door appeared. Immediately after, two old men walked out from the stone door. Grandpa and Grandpa Qi. Yi Tian and the green-clothed woman were stunned. It turned out that the people Qin Feiyang and Madman wanted to meet were them. Since it was these two old men, how could there be any cruelty? Although Qin Feiyang and Madman had deceived everyone, these two old men were people who sympathized with the mainland. Now that they personally came to meet Qin Feiyang and Madman, it definitely meant that they had forgiven them. This puzzled them no matter how they thought about it. But at the same time, Elder Hua and the other two, Mermaid Princess, Fire Lotus, and Fire Dragon, the three beasts' eyes turned sharp. Outside, Qin Feiyang and Madman also sensed the arrival of the two vice leaders and immediately looked up. Why did he come along? Could it be that they're really together? When Madman saw the Hall of Famers, he instantly frowned. Don't worry. Your master might want to personally deliver the divine artifact to you and send you off. After all, we said before that we were going to the Western continent. Qin Feiyang transmitted his voice. That better be the case. Madman muttered. He indeed had a good relationship with the Hall of Famers. He didn't want this feeling to be deceived. If so, he would feel uncomfortable. Master, Hall Master, we're here. Qin Feiyang waved his hand and smiled. The two were looking for Qin Feiyang and Madman. When they heard Qin Feiyang's voice, they immediately looked down. When they saw the two people standing on the mountain peak, a smile appeared on their faces. Shua. Next. The vice leader put away the stone door and landed on the mountain peak. Old man, where's the divine artifact? Madman immediately went to the Hall of Famers. Other than the divine artifact, can you think of anything else? For example, ask me how my body is? The Hall of Famers glared at him. Madman sized up the Hall of Famers and chuckled. Isn't your body quite good? What's there to ask? You're heartless. The Hall of Famers glared at him, then looked at Qin Feiyang and asked, have you really decided to go to the Western continent? Qin Feiyang and Madman nodded. Sigh. The Hall of Famers sighed and nodded. All right, this old man won't stop you, but you have to promise this old man that you will come back alive. Don't worry, I will definitely come back to send you off. Madman grinned. You little brat, you actually cursed this old man to die. The Hall of Famers' veins suddenly popped and he fiercely knocked Madman's head. Did I say something wrong? You don't have any children, so as your disciple, I have to take this responsibility. Madman pouted in grievance. The Hall of Famers' mouth twitched and he said with a black face, so, this old man has to thank you? There's no need to thank me, just give me 180 supreme-grade heaven-defying artifacts. Madman chuckled. Then you should just die in the Western continent. The Hall of Famers scoffed coldly. What kind of person was this, to be so indecent all day long? Looking at the master and disciple who were hurting each other, Qin Feiyang and the Deputy Alliance leader couldn't help but laugh. Suddenly. The Deputy Alliance leader looked at the island below and asked suspiciously, why aren't there any sea beasts on this island? I didn't like them, so I chased them all away. Madman said. The Deputy Alliance leader was stunned and smiled bitterly. Only the two of you dare to be so overbearing in the heavenly cloud ocean. You flatter me. Madman bared his teeth. He didn't know what modesty was at all. The Vice Alliance Master smiled helplessly. He looked at Qin Feiyang and said, I'm very happy that we can truly let go of our former enmity. I won't say anything else. After going to the Western continent, be careful. Disciple knows. Qin Feiyang nodded. All right, Master will give you a divine artifact now. I don't want anything else, just a peace of mind. The Deputy Alliance leader sighed and waved his hand, and a long iron box appeared. Qin Feiyang's eyes had a trace of joy, but he was secretly vigilant. It definitely wouldn't be so simple. Boom! As expected. Just as the Deputy Alliance leader took out the iron box, the power of laws appeared above the island, and a huge barrier appeared in an instant, covering the entire White Crane Island. Qin Feiyang, Madman, and the Hall of Famers immediately looked up. The Deputy Alliance leader also had a look of surprise. It wasn't easy, but I finally caught you guys. Along with a sneer, 3 figures appeared in the void above the barrier. It's you guys. Qin Feiyang's eyes were instantly filled with monstrous fury. That's right, it's us. Old C said. The Grand Deacon and the Blood Hall Master also stood to the side, and their eyes flickered with a shocking cold light. You guys are following us? Qin Feiyang's eyes darkened. Just as he finished speaking, he frowned and said, No, the people you sent to monitor us have already died on Sky Cloud Island. Logically speaking, they shouldn't know that we're on White Crane Island. They really died on Sky Cloud Island. You guys are indeed quite capable. You can even kill a perfect sovereign realm expert. However, no matter what, you can't escape from our hands. Today will be your doomsday. Old C sneered. Blood Hall, don't go too far. The Hall of Famers roared and took a step forward, blocking Qin Feiyang and Madman. That's right. Although our Rogue Cultivator Alliance isn't as good as your Blood Hall, we're not easy to bully, especially since they're our disciples. The Deputy Alliance leader also took a step to the side of the Hall of Famers, protecting Qin Feiyang and Madman. He looked up at Old C and the other two and roared. If Qin Feiyang and Madman didn't know that the Deputy Alliance leader was colluding with the Blood Hall, they would definitely be moved to tears when they saw this scene. Just the two of you? Old C smiled disdainfully. Yes. Just the two of us. The Hall of Famers waved his hand, and the Time Law appeared. The Deputy Alliance leader also activated the Death Law. However, the moment he activated the Death Law, he suddenly turned around and slapped the Qi Si of the Hall of Famers. Puff! Caught off guard, the Hall of Famers spat out a mouthful of blood on the spot, and his Qi Si directly shattered. What are you doing? This sudden turn of events was something that he had never expected. Qin Feiyang and Madman also stared at the Deputy Alliance leader in shock. They seemed to be frightened and stood there in a daze. At the same time, Black Tortoise Realm. Yi Tian's face was also filled with disbelief. Grandpa actually attacked the Hall of Famers? Could it be, at this moment, the words that Qin Feiyang once said to him involuntarily surfaced in his mind? Grandpa really colluded with the Blood Hall? The green-clothed woman at the side was really scared silly. Why would Grandpa Yi attack Grandpa Qi? As the granddaughter of the Great Elder, she also called people like the Deputy Alliance leader and the Hall of Famers Grandpa. Especially the Deputy Alliance leader. Because of her relationship with Yi Tian, she especially respected and loved the Deputy Alliance leader. Usually, the Deputy Alliance leader also doted on her, but she never thought that the old man she respected and loved would reveal such a ferocious side at this moment. Outside, Qin Feiyang and Madman finally came back to their senses and immediately rushed behind the Hall of Famers. One on the left and one on the right, they supported the Hall of Famers. Then, they glared at the Deputy Alliance leader and shouted, "What are you doing?" From this point, it could already be concluded that the Hall of Famers was innocent and had nothing to do with the Blood Hall. Madman was also very relieved that he didn't misjudge him. Chapter 3265. Kill you guys. The vice leader smiled sinisterly as a terrifying divine might emerged, instantly imprisoning Qin Feiyang and the other two. Kill us? Old man Yi, are you crazy? The Hall of Famers said angrily. Old man, don't you understand? He is in cahoots with the Hall of Blood. The madman stared at the vice leader gloomily. What? The Hall of Famers' expression froze, unable to believe it to the extreme. Huh, the vice leader raised his head and laughed. Two streams of death power rushed towards Qin Feiyang and the madman. In his opinion, it happened so suddenly that Qin Feiyang and the Hall of Famers couldn't react in time and would definitely be killed in one blow. Moreover, the three of them were still imprisoned by his pressure, so it was impossible for them to escape. But he didn't notice that there was a trace of ridicule hidden in Qin Feiyang's eyes. It's not that easy to kill us. Qin Feiyang suddenly let out a low roar as the potential imprint on his chest emitted rays of divine light. The might that imprisoned them was forcibly broken. Immediately after, Qin Feiyang brought the madman and the Hall of Famers and appeared above the western region Blood Sea. Boom! Without any hesitation, the slaughter domain directly opened. The blood in the Blood Sea below suddenly turned into a torrent and rushed towards Qin Feiyang. Old man, hurry up and repair your Qi Si. There will be a battle next. The madman also took out a Yuan Hai divine pill with 7 dragon-shaped Dan Qi and threw it to the Hall of Famers. The Hall of Famers still couldn't accept it. Outside, the vice leader's expression couldn't help but be stunned. Originally, he was full of confidence. As long as he crippled the Qi Si of the Hall of Famers and used his pressure to imprison Qin Feiyang and the other two, the 3 of them would be meat on the chopping board and would no longer have the power to resist. After all, he possessed a cultivation at the perfection sovereign realm, and he was an entire 3 levels higher than Qin Feiyang and Madman. However, never had he imagined that Qin Feiyang would actually be able to forcefully break through the restraints of his pressure. Don't worry, everything is within our expectations. Whoosh! Old Hai and the other 2 landed in front of the Vice Alliance Master. As expected? The Vice Leader raised his eyebrows. Not bad. If your Hall of Famers hadn't come along, it would have been much easier for you to succeed. But I didn't expect this old fart to come along and join in the fun. But it doesn't matter. As long as the people from the Devil Hall don't come, even if they activate the slaughter domain and use the sovereign divine weapon, victory is still within our grasp. Old Hai sneered. But the first 2 times, the vice leader frowned. The first time was in the heavenly cloud sea. So long as the Grand Deacon and I brought the 3 sovereign weapons to kill them, said the Grand Deacon. The second time was in the Wind Sea City, and only the 3 sovereign divine weapons went to kill them. But this time, our Hall Master has personally come along with you. Not to mention the slaughter domain and the sovereign divine weapon, even if they used the Black Tortoise World's origin energy, they still wouldn't be our match. Old Hai smiled proudly. That makes sense. The vice leader nodded and muttered. Qin Feiyang, don't think that you can hide inside. Today, you will die without a doubt. Come out immediately, or else we will forcefully break open your Black Tortoise World. At that time, not only you, but everyone around you, including the entire Black Tortoise World, will be buried with you. Old Hai stared at the void, killing intent flickering in his eyes. I don't believe it, Grandpa Yi actually colluded with the Blood Hall, in the tea garden. The green-clothed woman looked at the vice leader, Old Hai, and the other 2 and shook her head continuously. She then looked at Yi Tian, whose hands were tightly clenched together. His face was filled with pain. In the past, no matter what Qin Feiyang said, he didn't believe it. That was because he believed that his grandfather would never do such a thing. However, he never expected that it was all true. Now that it was right in front of his eyes, even if it was hard to accept, it was a fact that couldn't be erased. Why, he roared in his heart. To deal with the Demon Hall? But was there a need to join forces with the Blood Hall to deal with the Demon Hall? The grudge between the Western and Eastern continents had long reached an irreconcilable stage. Even a cold-blooded monster would not hesitate to put aside their personal grudges and unite against the Western continent in the face of the big picture. And now, his most respected grandfather was actually colluding with the Blood Hall. Wasn't he afraid of being pointed at and cursed by thousands? Elder Hua and the other 2 ignored the 2 and didn't have the time to comfort them. However, they weren't in a hurry to make a move. They were waiting for an excellent opportunity. Outside, only a moment had passed. Before Old Hai's voice died down, 2 great divine weapons appeared and swept out in all directions. It was the Heaven Dragon God's Sword and the Ice Dragon Sacred Sword. Why are you talking so much nonsense with them? Just blast open the Black Tortoise world and kill our way in. The weapon spirits of the two divine weapons roared and were fully awakened. They slashed at the Black Tortoise world. Old High's face changed and he hurriedly shouted, "Wait, let the sea beasts in this area leave first. Otherwise, if they're affected, that little rabbit will cause trouble for us." How troublesome. The two weapon spirits were infuriated and roared, "If you don't want to die, scram." Their voices were like a bell that reverberated in all directions. When the sea beasts in the surrounding area heard these words and sensed the aura of the two sovereign divine weapons, they immediately turned around and fled. In just a few breaths, not a single sea beast could be seen in a radius of tens of millions of miles. Clang! The two sovereign divine weapons attacked again, carrying a destructive aura as they slashed at the Black Tortoise world. With a loud clang, the entire Black Tortoise world shook. What's going on? An earthquake? The living beings in the Black Tortoise world were shocked. Although the Black Tortoise world was comparable to a sovereign divine weapon after merging with the ancient castle, one had to know that two sovereign divine weapons were attacking the Black Tortoise world together. It was naturally difficult for the Black Tortoise world to block the attack of two sovereign divine weapons. Seeing this, the Blood Hall Master's eyes were filled with killing intent. With a wave of his hand, a horsetail whisk appeared. Follow them and blast open the Black Tortoise world. Following the Blood Hall Master's order, the horsetail whisk awakened and charged at the Black Tortoise world. Clang! Rumble! Sparks flew in all directions as destructive shockwaves rolled out in all directions. The barrier that Old High and the other two had set up had been shattered at the first moment. White Crane Island had been reduced to ashes and even the sea had disappeared. All that was left was a chaotic area that looked like the beginning of the world. In the face of the three sovereign divine weapons attack, the Black Tortoise world shook even more violently. The entire void, including the sky, cracked open. To the living beings in the Black Tortoise world, this scene was like the end of the world. What the hell happened? The Black Tortoise world suffered such a heavy blow. Everyone was shocked and their eyes were filled with fear. Boom! However, right at this moment, Little Wimp appeared. When he saw the current state of the Black Tortoise world, his face suddenly shook. Along with a wave of his little hand, waves of source energy descended from the sky and instantly covered every corner of the Black Tortoise world, frantically repairing those cracks. Qin Feiyang, hurry up. Soon after, Little Wimp looked at the western region and roared. Miss, quickly send me out. Let me persuade grandfather. Yi Tian looked at the tragic state of the Black Tortoise world and hurriedly said to Fire Lotus. No. Fire Lotus shook her head. If this continues, the Black Tortoise world will be destroyed. By then, all living beings will die tragically. Can you bear to see this happen? Yi Tian roared. Hearing this, Old Hua and the other two looked at each other and a smile flashed across their eyes. No matter what the Vice Alliance leader was like, at least his grandson still had a heart of compassion. Don't worry. Qin Dage will have a way. Moreover, without Qin Feiyang's permission, I can't make the decision to send you out. Fire Lotus shook her head. She had absolute trust in Qin Feiyang. At the same time, the little rabbit on Sky Cloud Island seemed to have sensed something. With a wave of its little paw, the situation of White Crane Island appeared in the void in front of it. Looking at the Vice Alliance leader, Old High, and the other two, a trace of surprise appeared in the little rabbit's eyes. Why would the Vice Alliance leader of the Rogue Cultivator Alliance be with the Blood Hall? It seems like this matter is more interesting than I expected. Seeing that the nearby sea beasts were not affected, it did not make a move. Instead, it drank the Black Tortoise Divine Brew while watching the battlefield on the screen. It was as if it was watching a movie. The Black Tortoise world must be collapsing now. If you don't come out now, it'll be too late for regrets. Old Hai laughed maniacally outside. The three sovereign divine weapons continued to attack the Black Tortoise world. The Blood Hall Master, the Grand Deacon, and the Vice Alliance leader sneered. Clang! Suddenly, accompanied by a loud sound, a monstrous murderous aura emerged from the center of the battlefield. In the next moment, a young man covered in blood appeared out of thin air. He was naturally Qin Feiyang. The slaughter domain was like a sea of blood. The blood-red sword in his hand was like a real sovereign divine weapon, emitting a sharp aura that could destroy the world. Clang! At the same time when Qin Feiyang appeared, the ancient castle located in the Devil's Land also appeared on the battlefield with a loud sound. He's finally out. The slaughter domain has opened and the ancient castle has appeared. But so what? I'll hold this little bastard back first. You guys quickly deal with the ancient castle. Then, we'll work together to kill this little bastard. Heavenly Dragon Divine Sword let out a fierce laugh and immediately charged towards Qin Feiyang. Hearing this, the Ice Dragon Sacred Sword and the Horsetail Whisk went all out and attacked the ancient castle together. However, even if it was 1 against 2, the ancient castle did not retreat. Of course, Qin Feiyang would not back down. Holding the blood-red sword, he attacked the Dragon God Sword. At the same time, the Blood Hall Master and the other 3 also used their magical powers to help the Ice Dragon Sacred Sword and the Horsetail Whisk attack the ancient castle. A great battle began. First destroy the castle, then come and kill me. Your wishful thinking is quite good, but don't forget, this is the Heavenly Cloud Sea. With our relationship with Uncle Rabbit, he will soon come to help. Qin Feiyang shouted coldly. Don't be too naive. Do you think that by giving it some wine, you can please it and make it help you? Let me tell you, you don't understand it at all. As long as it doesn't harm the sea beasts of the Heavenly Cloud Sea, it won't interfere. As for the sea beasts nearby, they have been driven away by us. So, just wait for despair. Old Hai laughed sinisterly. All kinds of profound laws with monstrous power bombarded the ancient castle. Chapter 3266. No matter how strong the ancient castle was, it couldn't withstand the combined attacks of 2 sovereign divine weapons and 4 giants. Soon, cracks began to appear on its body. Qin Feiyang had been paying attention to the ancient castle's battlefield. The 2 sovereign divine weapons and Old Hai's group were completely focused on the ancient castle and didn't pay any attention to his situation. Old Hai and the other 3 even had hope of victory on their faces. In fact, this was the effect he wanted. If they fought head-on, even with the help of Old Hua and the others, they would have to pay a huge price to win. Therefore, if they wanted to win easily, they had to use their wits. The 3 sovereign divine weapons and Old Hai's group had a good plan, but they were also helping him. It was simple. Their attention was on the ancient castle and they wouldn't pay attention to Qin Feiyang's situation. Therefore, this was an opportunity for Qin Feiyang. He could call Old Hua and the others out and quickly deal a heavy blow to the Dragon God Sword. Moreover, in comparison, Qin Feiyang had the advantage. Because they didn't know that Old Hua and the others were in the Black Tortoise world, they wouldn't be on guard. Take the Dragon God Sword for example. It must have thought that victory was already in its hands. If Old Hua and the others suddenly appeared with the sovereign divine weapons, it would be completely caught off guard. Therefore, the other party's wishful thinking was helping him. Qin Feiyang, can you hurry up? I can't hold on much longer. The ancient castle urged through voice transmission. It didn't fight head-on and tried its best to dodge. As long as it wanted to dodge, even if the 4 sovereign divine weapons and Old Hai worked together, it could still hold on for a while. Right away, Qin Feiyang replied and transmitted his voice, Old Hua, get ready to attack. You must succeed in one blow and deal a heavy blow to the dragon god's sword. Don't worry. Time, place, and people are all on our side. If we can't deal a heavy blow to it, how can we be called the three giants of the demon palace? Old Hua smiled confidently. At the same time, the demon hall's hall master waved his hand, and a scarlet sword appeared. He handed it to Elder Hua. This was the sovereign divine weapon of the devil palace. Outside, when Qin Feiyang heard this, he could not help but feel relieved. Done. After about 2 breaths, Elder Hua's voice resounded in Qin Feiyang's mind. Qin Feiyang's eyes were filled with murderous intent. Wielding the blood-red sword, he charged at the dragon god's sword. No matter how hard you try, you won't be able to get rid of me. Just watch as the castle falls. The dragon god's sword laughed heartily and fearlessly charged forward. Really? Qin Feiyang raised the corner of his mouth. Just before the blood-red longsword collided with the celestial dragon god's sword, Qin Feiyang summoned Elder Hua with a thought. Elder Hua immediately appeared beside him with the crimson longsword in his hand. He slashed at the celestial dragon god's sword. Almost at the same time, the 2 divine weapons clashed with the dragon god's sword. Clang! Crack! As expected, the dragon god's sword was caught off guard. Sparks flew in all directions as a crack appeared on its body. Again. This was a rare opportunity. How could they miss it? Before the dragon god's sword could react, Qin Feiyang and Elder Hua attacked again with all their might. The 2 divine weapons slashed at the celestial dragon god's sword again. It was still in its original position. With a loud cracking sound, the heavenly dragon divine sword was cut in half. What? Elder Hai, Elder Hua, and the 2 sovereign divine weapons finally reacted. When they looked over, their expressions changed drastically. Elder Hua. The sovereign divine weapon of the devil palace. Are you surprised? Are you surprised? Elder Hua laughed and charged at the horsetail whisk with the crimson longsword in his hand. Qin Feiyang no longer paid any attention to the heavenly dragon divine sword. Although he did not manage to destroy the dragon god's sword, it could not unleash its full combat strength after being cut in half. He could ignore it for the time being. Therefore, he charged at the ice dragon's sacred sword with the crimson longsword in his hand. Clang! In an instant, the 4 divine weapons clashed. Although there were many cracks on the ancient castle, it could still continue to fight. Clang! It was also like a mountain, bringing with it a monstrous divine might as it pressed down towards the ice dragon holy sword. After being hit by the crimson longsword and the ancient castle, a crack appeared on the ice dragon's sacred sword. Don't panic. I can still fight. The dragon god sword roared and charged at Elder Hua with murderous intent. That's right. The ancient castle is on the verge of destruction. With our numbers, we can kill them. Old Hai also shouted. Is that so? Qin Feiyang smiled coldly. With a thought, the demon hall master, Chu Yun, the black dragon, and the fire one all appeared. Although the black dragon and the fire one were not as powerful as these giants, they were still complete sovereigns. It was not a problem for them to assist. What? Elder Hai and the others turned pale when they saw the demon hall master and Chu Yun appear. What's going on? Didn't you say that they are all in the demon hall? Why did they all come out? Elder Hai glared at the Deputy Alliance Master. I don't know either. I did confirm it again and again. The Deputy Alliance Master shook his head in confusion. Let me tell you. Qin Feiyang stopped and retreated to the ancient castle, Elder Hua, and the others. He glanced at Elder Hai and the others with a hint of mockery in his eyes. The 4 of them immediately looked at Qin Feiyang. I have already expected your plan. Therefore, I called Elder Hua and the others over on the day of the exchange. The person you sent to spy on us was also killed by us at that time. That's not right. We didn't kill him. We forced him to self-destruct his body. Qin Feiyang smiled. The four of them could not help but feel their scalps go numb. They had already started to plan on the day of the exchange. Of course, we will not ignore the spy you placed in the Demon Hall. Therefore, when we left the Demon Hall, Elder Hua and the others asked the 3 Demon Hall elders to disguise themselves as them. In other words, the person your spy saw these days was not Elder Hua and the others. Qin Feiyang smiled faintly. So, this is all a trap. The Deputy Alliance Master's face turned pale. That's right. This is a trap. Don't you like to play tricks? Of course, I have to play with you. Also, Master, Qin Feiyang looked at the Deputy Alliance Master and smiled. You are probably wondering how we knew you had a spy in the Demon Hall. Why would I guess that you would use such a method to deal with me? The Deputy Alliance Master was silent, but the doubt on his face was enough to explain everything. You have been acting with me since the beginning. You even used the Hall of Famers to gain sympathy. But you don't know that I was also acting with you. Because, when I was in the Hall of Famers, I already knew that you were in cahoots with the Blood Hall. Do you still remember that time when you communicated with the black-robed man from the Blood Hall? At that time, I was standing in the Black Tortoise world and saw with my own eyes how you were going to deal with me. Qin Feiyang sneered. The Deputy Alliance Master clenched his fists when he heard this. He did not expect that Qin Feiyang had already caught him red-handed at that time. Then why have you been holding back and not saying anything? The Deputy Alliance Master asked in a deep voice. Because I want to know if the Hall of Famers and the Alliance Master have anything to do with this. Now, it has been proven that the Hall of Famers has nothing to do with this. As for the Alliance Master, Senior Brother Feng Zi and I searched everywhere in the Alliance, but we couldn't find him. Later, Elder Hua reminded me and told me about the Fire Dragon's true identity, so I thought of asking the Fire Dragon. However, the Fire Dragon was wary of me, so I had to gain his trust first. So, Elder Hua and I discussed and came up with a plan to rescue the Fire Dragon. As you can see, the Demon Hall killed the Fire Dragon in public in the central square of Cloud Sea City. This was our plan. Later on, it was very successful. We gained the Fire Dragon's trust, but the answer we got from him shocked me. He said that the Alliance Master and his parents might have met with misfortune, and it might have been done by the Demon Hall. That was why he took the risk to sneak into the Demon Hall to investigate, and in the end, he was caught by Chu Yun. But I knew in my heart that the disappearance of the Alliance Master and his parents had nothing to do with the Demon Hall. So, Senior Brother Feng Zi and I made some guesses and locked onto you and the Hall of Famers as the targets. Now, the Hall of Famers can be eliminated as a suspect, so you're the only one left. Not to mention anything else, just the fact that you colluded with the Blood Hall makes you the greatest suspect. Qin Feiyang said indifferently. The Vice Alliance Master's pupils constricted. Ha! Suddenly, the Blood Hall's Hall Master laughed loudly. Qin Feiyang looked at the Blood Hall's Hall Master suspiciously. I thought that the plan this time was flawless and that victory was definitely in our hands, but I didn't expect that everything was within your calculations. I have to admit that you and Madman are really terrifying. Even the elite disciples of our Blood Hall are far inferior to young people like you. But, the outcome of today's battle is still unknown. That's because, including the Vice Alliance leader, we have 4 Supreme Overlords. Each of us has mastered a supreme ultimacy. As for you, you only have Elder Hua and the other 2. As for the Black Dragon and the Fire Yuan, they won't even stand a chance. The Blood Hall's Hall Master sneered. Is that so? Then what if I'm included? Suddenly, a cold and bone-chilling voice rang out. Qin Feiyang was stunned and hurriedly turned around to see Little Wimp appear beside him out of thin air. "Why did you come out?" Qin Feiyang was surprised. A good black tortoise world was turned into this by them. "I can't take this lying down." Little Wimp roared and his origin force suddenly surged out, turning into a huge sword. Like a peerless weapon, it slashed towards the Dragon God sword with lightning speed. The Dragon God sword had already been cut in half and its strength had been greatly reduced. How could it block this sword? It immediately turned around and fled. Humph! Little Wimp calmly snorted and another wave of origin force emerged. A huge cage instantly appeared out of thin air and enveloped the Dragon God sword. Following closely, the 10,000 zhang long giant sword formed by the origin energy madly attacked the heavenly dragon divine sword. "No!" the Dragon God sword roared, its tone was filled with fear. Chapter 3267. Just because you say so? Do you think I'll give you that much face? Little Wimp sneered. The giant sword formed by the power of laws slammed into the broken heavenly dragon god sword. With a loud gotcha, under the shocked gazes of both parties, the heavenly dragon divine sword was actually smashed into pieces. This, Black Dragon and Fire Luan looked at each other. Although the heavenly dragon god sword was broken, it was still a sovereign divine weapon. It shouldn't be so weak. Although the two beasts had been in the Black Tortoise world for a long time, Little Wimp had never appeared. That was why they didn't know that there was such a kid in the Black Tortoise world until now. More importantly, such a little brat was actually so ridiculously strong. You really think I'm a sick cat if I don't show you my power? Today, I'll let you know the consequences of angering me. Little Wimp was furious. With a wave of his hand, the giant sword and barrier formed by the power of origin dissipated, turning into a divine light that engulfed the broken pieces of the heavenly dragon god sword. "No, save me!" The heavenly dragon god sword's weapon spirit screamed in fear. Clang! The ice dragon sacred sword and horsetail whisk immediately attacked the power of origin. Don't even think about it. The ancient castle charged over at lightning speed. You go and help too. Elder Hua patted the scarlet longsword lightly. With a clang, the scarlet longsword flew out of his hand and followed the ancient castle to attack the two divine weapons. Boom! The four divine weapons clashed once again. Let's settle the grudge between the Demon Hall and the Blood Hall. The Demon Hall Master said as he took a step forward. His aura surged as he charged toward the Blood Hall Master. Old Man Hai, let's not idle around. Elder Hua also unleashed a monstrous aura. He charged toward Elder Hai like an ancient divine emperor. Then let's begin. Chu Yun also glanced at the Grand Deacon. Boom! The battle began. Black Dragon glanced at the battlefield and said to Fire Luan, "It seems like we have nothing to do with this." "Yes, there is. Look, isn't there an old man over there?" Huoluan angrily pointed its beak at the vice leader. "I'm not going. With that old man's strength, even if the two of us work together, we wouldn't be enough to fill the gaps between his teeth." The Black Dragon hurriedly shook his head. Qin Feiyang glanced at the two beasts, then looked at the Vice Alliance Master and said indifferently, "Leave this person to me. You two go and assist Elder Hua and the others." "All right." The two beasts grinned and immediately rushed to Elder Hua and Elder Hai's battlefield. Why should he help Elder Hua? That was purely because he didn't like Old Hai. As for the Vice Alliance Master, his face was ghastly pale. Because of the appearance of this little brat, the so-called advantage instantly disappeared. Because even if Little Wimp stopped now, with the current state of the Dragon God Sword, it wouldn't be able to fight anymore. As for Old Hai and the other two, the Horsetail Whisk, and the Ice Dragon Sacred Sword all had their own opponents, so he could only brace himself to face Qin Feiyang. If it was the usual Qin Feiyang, he naturally wouldn't be afraid. But now, Qin Feiyang had activated the slaughter domain, which was a divine art that could compete with the Dominator divine weapon. No matter how confident he was, he didn't dare to think that he could defeat the current Qin Feiyang. However, Qin Feiyang didn't immediately make a move. While paying attention to the Vice Alliance Master, he also looked at Little Wimp. Looking at Little Wimp's posture, he was planning to destroy the Dragon God Sword God. However, was the source energy that powerful? Don't doubt the power of the source energy. If this Dragon God Sword wasn't heavily injured by you guys, it would indeed take a lot of effort. I might even have to use all of my source energy. After all, the Black Tortoise Realm can't compare to a large world like the Sky Cloud Realm. However, it's different now. It was heavily injured by you guys. I only need to use half of my source energy to grind it into dust. Not even a speck of it will be left. Since you've angered this young master, today will be its end. Little Wimp's voice sounded in Qin Feiyang's mind, full of killing intent. Not even a speck of it will be left, Qin Feiyang muttered. If he could really completely destroy this Dragon God Sword, then using half of his source energy would be worth it. However, after this battle, the Black Tortoise Realm can't be tormented again for a short period of time. Little Wimp transmitted his voice. What's wrong? Qin Feiyang was suspicious. Previously, when the Black Tortoise Realm was destroyed, it consumed a lot of its source energy to repair it. Now, it will consume another half of its source energy. It can be said that this time, the Black Tortoise Realm's vitality has been greatly damaged. Also, those divine weapons that you got need to absorb a large amount of source energy every day. Therefore, in the coming period of time, the Black Tortoise Realm needs to rest well. Speaking until here, Little Wimp paused for a moment and then asked, "You understand what I mean, right?" "I understand. In the future, don't provoke people who are too strong." Qin Feiyang replied. "Yes. Bear with it for now. When the Black Tortoise Realm recovers, you can do whatever you want." After Little Wimp finished speaking, he waved his hand and the source energy surrounded the fragments of the Dragon God Sword, while the spirit of the Dragon God Sword howled miserably inside. Whoosh! It was also at this moment. When the Vice Leader heard the despairing and painful howls of the Dragon God Sword, he suddenly quivered and hurriedly turned around to escape. Swish! Qin Feiyang used the spacetime step and took a step forward, saying, "Where are you going? What do you want to do? Don't forget, although we are all acting, the world knows that you are my disciple. If you kill me now, and the news spreads, you will bear the infamy of deceiving your master and destroying your ancestors." The Vice Leader stopped abruptly and stared at Qin Feiyang as he roared. Qin Feiyang smiled and said, "Do I look like the kind of person who cares about fame and fortune?" Clang! After saying that, he waved the blood-colored sword in his hand, and thousands of sword chi instantly roared in all directions, turning into a torrent that surged toward the Vice Leader. How would the Vice Leader dare to face him head-on? Even if he grasped a supreme profound, he would only be abused. He used a kind of supreme-level heaven-defying auxiliary divine art and fled without looking back. Quite troublesome. Qin Feiyang raised his eyebrows. Although the slaughter domain could greatly increase the power of the blood-colored sword, his cultivation was still at the early stage of the Dominator realm, and his speed naturally couldn't compare to the Vice Leader's. As for the spacetime step, although it was a supreme profound support divine technique, the Vice Leader was an overlord, so he definitely had it. Therefore, if the Vice Leader wanted to escape, he really couldn't do anything. This could be considered one of the drawbacks of the slaughter domain. Right. Isn't there still the Hall of Famers? 1,000 years in the Black Tortoise Realm, his Sea of Qi should have been repaired long ago. With that thought, Qin Feiyang pulled the Hall of Famers out. His Sea of Qi had indeed been repaired. "Hall Master, I'll leave the Vice Leader to you." Qin Feiyang looked at the Hall of Famers and said. Don't worry. The Hall of Famers stared at the vice leader's back. His usually gentle and benevolent face was now filled with boundless anger as he roared, "Old man Yi, stop right there." The next moment, he then unleashed a monstrous aura and chased after the Vice Alliance leader using a supreme-level support technique. Boom! Soon, the battle between the two also erupted. The various battlefields were incomparably intense, and the sky darkened. Everyone had their own opponents, so Qin Feiyang had nothing to do. Of course. He naturally couldn't stand aside and watch the show. "I'll help you." Qin Feiyang held the blood-colored sword and charged toward the Dragon God sword fragment. "Okay. Hurry up and kill it, lest something unexpected happens." Brat roared. Qin Feiyang took a step forward and slashed at a fingernail-sized fragment with his sword. The fragment turned into ashes on the spot. "Qin Feiyang, let's talk." The Dragon God sword's weapon spirit was terrified to the extreme. "Do you think there's anything to talk about with our relationship?" Qin Feiyang sneered and shattered a few more fragments. "No. We can talk about it. You know that I used to protect dragons. That was the order of the Dragon God. I can't disobey it. Even now, it's the Dragon God who wants to kill you. Whether it's us or the Blood Hall, we have no choice. Qin Feiyang, how about this? Let me go, and I'll work for you. I'm a sovereign divine weapon. With my help, the ancient castle, and your slaughter domain, we can completely sweep the 4 continents of the Sky Cloud realm." The weapon spirit exclaimed repeatedly. "Work for me?" Qin Feiyang was stunned. "Yes, yes, yes." The weapon spirit replied. "If you work for me, aren't you afraid that the ice dragon will find trouble with you?" Qin Feiyang sneered. "I'm afraid, but now, I don't want to die." The weapon spirit was so anxious that it was about to cry. Qin Feiyang's eyes flickered. "It's true. As long as you let me go, I'll follow you wholeheartedly. Even if the Dragon God comes, I won't betray you." Seeing Qin Feiyang hesitating, the weapon spirit struck while the iron was hot and continued to flatter him. Qin Feiyang was silent for a while. Then, the corner of his mouth lifted slightly. He waved the blood-colored sword and shattered a few more fragments. "I've already begged you like this. What else do you want?" The weapon spirit roared anxiously. "It's hard to control a heaven-defying divine weapon, let alone a sovereign-level divine weapon like you. If I keep you by my side, you might stab me in the back at any time. I don't want to spend every day guarding against you." Qin Feiyang sneered. A sovereign-level divine weapon like the Dragon God sword was like a ticking time bomb that could explode at any time. Moreover, the explosion would be fatal. Therefore, although a sovereign-level divine weapon was very tempting, his life was more important. "No, I won't, believe me, I swear," the weapon spirit roared. "Even if you swear to the heavens, I won't believe you. I won't dare to believe you." Qin Feiyang waved the blood-colored sword again and again, shattering one fragment after another. In less than 10 breaths, under the joint efforts of Qin Feiyang and Little Wimp, only the last fragment of the Dragon God sword was left. Qin Feiyang grabbed the blood-colored sword with both hands and slashed. The last fragment also shattered. A wisp of white light escaped from the fragment. That was the weapon spirit of the Dragon God sword. "Don't kill me, I beg you," the weapon spirit screamed as it fled. Its voice was filled with despair. However, Qin Feiyang and Little Wimp turned a deaf ear to it. The blood-colored sword and origin energy attacked the light figure at the same time. "No, Dragon God, come and save me," the weapon spirit screamed crazily. However, the savior it had been waiting for did not arrive. Accompanied by a shrill cry, the blood-red sword slashed it in half. Immediately after, the origin energy surged forth and instantly obliterated it. A sovereign-level divine weapon fell just like that. Chapter 3268. How is this possible? Just as the heavenly dragon god's sword fell, the ice dragon sacred sword, Horsetail Whisk, Old High, and the deputy leader in the distance suddenly changed their expressions. The sovereign divine weapon actually fell? For them, this was no less than the end of the world. Because in the sky cloud realm, the sovereign divine weapon was the most powerful existence. The reason why the Divine Palace, Sky Palace, Blood Palace, and Demon Palace could rule the 4 continents was precisely because they had a sovereign divine weapon. Take the Rogue Cultivator Alliance for example. No matter how the Rogue Cultivator Alliance developed, or how powerful it became, it could not truly replace the Demon Palace. The reason was that the Rogue Cultivator Alliance did not have a sovereign divine weapon. One could imagine the status of a sovereign divine weapon in the sky cloud realm. It had always been the sovereign divine weapon that suppressed others. No one had ever suppressed a sovereign divine weapon, let alone completely destroy a sovereign divine weapon. This was the first time in the history of the sky cloud realm, and also the first time a sovereign divine weapon fell. The most important thing was, after the fall of the heavenly dragon god's sword, they were completely at a disadvantage. Because now the Hall of Famers also came out. On Qin Feiyang's side, there were the Hall of Famers, Old Hua, Demon Palace's Lord, and Chu Yun, 4 super experts. On the Blood Palace's side, the Deputy Leader, Blood Palace's Lord, Old High, and the Great Deacon were also 4 super experts. These 8 people's strength was about the same. They did not have the confidence to defeat each other in a short period of time. In the end, it might even be a situation where both sides suffered. At the same time, Qin Feiyang's sovereign divine weapon, there was the ancient castle and the red longsword. On the Blood Palace's side, there was the ice dragon sacred sword and Horsetail Whisk. These 4 sovereign divine weapons were also fighting fiercely. Then, now that the heavenly dragon god's sword fell, there was no one to restrain Qin Feiyang. One must know. The current Qin Feiyang was the most terrifying. He could casually join a battlefield and affect the entire battle situation. Moreover, there were 2 divine beasts, Black Dragon and Fire Yuan, assisting from the side. Therefore, the fall of the heavenly dragon god's sword was a fatal blow to the Blood Palace's side. Little Wimp withdrew his hand. He looked at Qin Feiyang and said, "The rest is up to you. It would be best if you could kill them all. However, that is not realistic. Without the help of the origin energy, it is almost impossible to completely destroy a sovereign divine weapon." After he finished, the brat. "Since it's impossible to destroy the sovereign divine weapon, I'll just kill the 3 giants of the Blood Hall." Qin Feiyang's gaze turned as he slashed towards the ice dragon sacred sword. Because the opponent of the ancient castle was the ice dragon holy sword. Therefore, if he did not go and help now, the castle would be defeated by the ice dragon holy sword sooner or later. You know. Back then in the ancient realm, Qin Feiyang had almost destroyed the heavenly dragon god sword by himself, not to mention now that Qin Feiyang and the ancient castle had teamed up. It wanted to avoid Qin Feiyang's sword. However, the ancient castle was tightly entangled with it, not giving it the slightest chance. Despair. Qin Feiyang rushed over, holding the blood-colored sword with both hands, and with a furious roar, he slashed down. Clang! With this place as the center, a terrifying aura surged out in all directions. Then, accompanied by a loud kacha, a crack appeared on the body of the ice dragon holy sword. Damn it! Retreat! The ice dragon holy sword roared. The current Qin Feiyang was simply too strong. Without the heavenly dragon god sword, no one could stop him. Let's go! Hearing that, The hall master of the blood hall also made a prompt decision and gave the order to retreat. There was no way to fight anymore. Otherwise, with Qin Feiyang's attitude, they would all die here. However, it was easy to come, but difficult to leave. Whether it was the Hall of Famers or Elder Hua and the other two, their strength was not inferior to the Vice Alliance leader and the three great leaders of the Blood Hall. Seeing that the scales of victory had already tilted towards their side, Elder Hua and the other three would naturally not let the Vice Alliance leader and the three great leaders of the Blood Hall escape so easily. At the same time, it was the same for the ancient castle and the Red Sword. It was as difficult as ascending to the heavens for the Ice Dragon Holy Sword and the Horsetail Whisk to get rid of them. Because this was a good opportunity to counterattack, everyone used their abilities and tried their best to keep the other party. Qin Feiyang once again charged towards the Ice Dragon Holy Sword. Boom! After more than 10 rounds, the cracks on the Ice Dragon Holy Sword's body were like a spider web. It's very difficult to destroy a sovereign weapon. Don't waste time here. Go help Elder Hua and kill the three from the Blood Hall. The ancient castle transmitted its voice. Given the current state of the Ice Dragon Holy Sword, the ancient castle was confident that it could hold it back. Okay. Qin Feiyang nodded. He turned in the air and used the spacetime step to attack the Grand Deacon. What? Not only the Grand Deacon, but Elder Hai and the Demon Hall Master also turned pale. Originally, they all thought that Qin Feiyang would join forces with the ancient castle to completely destroy the Ice Dragon Holy Sword. This way, they would have time to think of a way to escape. However, they never expected that halfway through the battle, Qin Feiyang would attack them. It was obvious that Qin Feiyang wanted to get rid of them first, then slowly deal with the Ice Dragon Holy Sword and the Horsetail Whisk. Although their strength was at the top of the Sky Cloud realm, compared to a sovereign weapon, there was still a long way to go. At this moment, an indescribable fear rose in their hearts. Especially the Grand Deacon. Facing Chu Yun, who was not weaker than him, was already a headache. At this time, with Qin Feiyang, wouldn't it be an overwhelming defeat? The Supreme Profound of the Law of Death, Dusk of the Gods. The Grand Deacon gritted his teeth. A dark red waning moon slowly rose from behind him. A terrifying death force suddenly enveloped all directions. The void seemed to have turned into a cultivation hell. Fiend gods were roaring and howling in anger. Dusk of the Gods, this is the Supreme Profound of the Law of Death? Qin Feiyang's pupils contracted. When this waning moon rose, he felt a great sense of crisis in his heart. If it wasn't for the Slaughter Domain and the blood-colored longsword, he dared to guarantee that this waning moon would definitely kill him in an instant. But now, he wasn't afraid at all. Supreme Profound, Dusk of the Gods, at the same time. Madman stood in the tea garden, looking at the waning moon in the screen. After the Hall of Famers left, he also came to the Devil's Land with the help of Fire Lotus. He had been paying attention to the battlefield. At this moment, when the Grand Deacon activated the Supreme Profound of the Law of Death, his eyes flickered. Who wouldn't be interested in the Supreme Profound? What's more, Madman himself also mastered the Law of Death. So at this moment, he calmed his heart and carefully observed the waning moon, hoping to get some inspiration from it. Outside. With a wave of the Grand Deacon's hand, the waning moon formed by the Law of Death immediately fell from the sky and blasted towards Qin Feiyang. Qin Feiyang, be careful. Chu Yun shouted. Don't worry, just crush it. Qin Feiyang smiled coldly. The blood-colored longsword bloomed with brilliant light and directly met the attack. With a loud bang, the waning moon shattered on the spot. The Grand Deacon immediately spat out a mouthful of blood, his face pale. It turns out that the Supreme Profound is so weak in front of the Slaughter Domain. Qin Feiyang sneered. With a wave of the blood-colored longsword, thousands of sword chi suddenly turned into a torrent and rushed towards the Grand Deacon. Little Qin Zi, don't kill him. Black Tortoise whirled. White-eyed Wolf suddenly ran over, looked at the Grand Deacon in the screen, and shouted excitedly. Outside. Qin Feiyang was slightly stunned. I have a great use for you. White-eyed Wolf said telepathically. What great use? Qin Feiyang was puzzled. You'll know in the future. White-eyed Wolf said. Then, he added, it's best to keep Old Hai and the Blood Hall Master alive as well. Keep them alive? What are you trying to do? Qin Feiyang raised his eyebrows. This was their mortal enemy. Wouldn't it be a disaster to keep them alive? They're the key for me to enter the Dominator realm. Just destroy their Sea of Qi. White-eyed Wolf said. The key to entering the Dominator realm? Qin Feiyang was stunned. Since that was the case, he definitely couldn't kill them. Immediately, with a thought, the sword chi surging towards the Grand Deacon turned into a blood-red arrow and pierced through the Grand Deacon's lower abdomen like lightning. Ah! With a scream, the Grand Deacon's powerful aura immediately began to dissipate. What? Old Hai and the Demon Hall Master's expressions changed. Even the Grand Deacon was destroyed? They panicked even more. Chu Yun didn't know about the conversation between Qin Feiyang and the White-Eyed Wolf, so when she saw that the Grand Deacon's Sea of Qi was destroyed, she immediately charged towards him. Don't kill him. Qin Feiyang hurriedly stopped her and said telepathically, the White-Eyed Wolf needs him. The White-Eyed Wolf? Chu Yun was stunned. Yes. Qin Feiyang nodded. When Chu Yun heard this, the space-time law turned into a wisp of light and instantly entered the Grand Deacon's forehead. Ah! The Grand Deacon screamed again, and a bloody hole appeared between his brows. What are you doing? Qin Feiyang frowned. Don't worry, I didn't kill him. I only severely injured his divine soul to prevent him from causing trouble in the Black Tortoise world. After saying that, Chu Yun turned around and charged towards the battlefield of the Demon Hall Master and the Blood Hall Master. I see. Qin Feiyang came to a realization. This woman was quite considerate. Although the Grand Deacon's Sea of Qi was destroyed, his divine soul was still there. With his cultivation base, the power of his divine soul was enough to kill everyone in the Devil's Land. After all, those who could stand shoulder to shoulder with the Grand Deacon were all fighting outside. On the other hand, once the Grand Deacon's divine soul was severely injured, he wouldn't be able to cause any trouble in the Black Tortoise world even if he was still alive. However, it was better to be careful. Qin Feiyang looked at the Black Dragon and the Fire Yuan and said, Brother Black Dragon, Brother Fire Yuan, come over here. The two beasts were helping Elder Hu deal with Elder Hai. When they heard Qin Feiyang's voice, they immediately turned around and rushed to Qin Feiyang's side. The two of you go to the Black Tortoise world and look after the Grand Deacon. Qin Feiyang instructed. Okay. The two beasts nodded and immediately rushed to the Grand Deacon's side. With his Sea of Qi destroyed and his divine soul severely injured, the Grand Deacon was powerless to resist. Qin Feiyang waved his hand and sent them to the Devil's Land. When he saw the Grand Deacon appear, the White-Eyed Wolf's eyes lit up. There was even a string of saliva at the corner of his mouth. It was as if he had seen a delicious cake. Chapter 3269. Outside, the battle was still ongoing. After Qin Feiyang sent the Grand Deacon and the Black Dragon to the Black Tortoise realm, he scanned the various battlefields and finally locked his gaze on Old Hai. Old Hai immediately felt Qin Feiyang's gaze. That was because there was a strong murderous intent in that gaze that was difficult to ignore. His heart suddenly tightened and the spacetime law emerged, opening a spacetime passage. Want to leave? Elder Hu sneered and a time array rolled out. With a punch, the space-time passage immediately collapsed. In fact, Old Hai had opened the space-time passage more than once, but every time it was shattered by Elder Hua's punch and he could not find a chance to escape. Compared to before, this time it was even more urgent. Because Qin Feiyang was already here, if he did not escape now, he would not have a chance. Hence, Elder Hua's punch that shattered the space-time passage was undoubtedly cutting off his last chance of survival. Old Hua, I'll take you down with me. Old Hai clenched his teeth and a crazed look appeared in his eyes. With a roar, a destructive aura rushed out of his body. Self-destruct. Elder Hua was shocked and quickly activated his ultimacy. Time stop. Immediately. Everything around Old Hai entered a state of stillness. However, after all, Old Hai's strength was not inferior to Elder Hua, so he broke the time stop in the next moment. But it was also at this moment that Qin Feiyang arrived. The blood-red sword in his hand was like a bolt of lightning that directly pierced through Old Hai's lower abdomen, leaving a huge bloody hole. Ah! A scream resounded through the world. His powerful aura immediately retreated like the tide. Palace Master, save me! Despair enveloped him and he could not help but look at the Blood Palace Master for help. But now, the Blood Palace Master was facing the Demon Palace Master and Chu Yun, so he had no time to spare. Elder Hua, I'll leave it to you. Qin Feiyang said and charged towards the Blood Palace Master. The blood-red sword's radiance destroyed everything in all directions and the Blood Palace Master's sea of qi was shattered on the spot. What? On the battlefield further away, the Vice Alliance Master's expression changed drastically when he saw this. The Dragon God sword had been destroyed, the Grand Deacon had been captured, and the seas of energy of Elder Sea and Sect Lord Blood Hall had been crippled. Now, only he, the Ice Dragon Holy Sword, and the Horsetail Whisk were left. Faced with such a strong opponent like Qin Feiyang, the three heads of the Demon Palace, the Ancient Castle, the Crimson Longsword, and the Hall of Famers, there was no way for them to continue fighting. Despair. Even the Horsetail Whisk and the Ice Dragon Sacred Sword, the two sovereign divine weapons, couldn't help but feel despair. It was supposed to be a flawless plan, but he didn't expect it to turn out like this. Qin Feiyang, was there really no one who could stop the rise of this person? The Hall Master of the Blood Hall and Old Hai were naturally terrified at this moment. This was because they all knew that regardless of whether it was the three heads of the Demon Palace or Qin Feiyang, none of them would show mercy to them. Was he going to die here? He was unwilling to accept this. You didn't expect your meticulous plan to become the fuse that led to your deaths, right? Qin Feiyang smiled coldly. He held the Crimson Longsword and attacked the Horsetail Whisk again. He was like an invincible god of war, invincible. Even the Horsetail Whisk, a sovereign divine weapon, couldn't help but feel scared. At the same time, Elder C's spiritual soul was also severely injured by Elder Hua. The Hall Master of the Blood Hall didn't escape this fate either. The Hall Master of the Demon Palace and Chu Yun teamed up and shattered more than half of his spiritual soul. An atmosphere of despair shrouded their hearts. Boom! However, at this moment, a terrifying divine aura descended upon the sea region. When Qin Feiyang felt the divine aura, he immediately raised his head and saw an ice dragon that was about a meter long appear in the void above him. You are indeed in the sky cloud boundary. Killing intent surged in Qin Feiyang's eyes as he slashed at the ice dragon with his sword. Ice dragon! The Hall Master of the Demon Palace, Elder Hua, and Chu Yun were shocked. However, at the same time, a trace of joy appeared on the faces of the Hall Master of the Blood Hall and the others. The ice dragon glanced at everyone before looking at Qin Feiyang and said indifferently, as expected, you are still as fearless as before. As soon as the ice dragon finished speaking, a monstrous aura rushed out from its body and blasted towards the Crimson Longsword. With a loud crack, the crimson longsword was shattered on the spot. What? Elder Hua and the others' faces changed. One had to know that the crimson longsword was comparable to a sovereign divine weapon. However, it was shattered by the ice dragon's divine aura. Just how strong was the ice dragon? With a loud clang, the ancient castle decisively gave up on fighting with the ice dragon's sacred sword and placed itself above Qin Feiyang. Strands of divine aura descended and protected Qin Feiyang. Whoosh! At this moment, the little rabbit appeared with the black tortoise divine brew. Big brother. Qin Feiyang looked at the little rabbit, his eyes filled with gratitude. She really came. The little rabbit waved her paws and looked up at the ice dragon. She chuckled and said, "I know you are very strong, but don't forget that this is Uncle Rabbit's territory." Obviously. She was no stranger to the ice dragon. The ice dragon glanced at the little rabbit and then at Qin Feiyang. With a wave of his hand, the hall master of the blood hall, Elder Hai, the ice dragon's sacred sword, and the horsetail whisk immediately appeared in front of him. Then, the ice dragon looked at Qin Feiyang and said indifferently, "The battle between us is not over yet." After saying that, Ice Dragon took Old Hai, and the two sovereign divine weapons and disappeared without a trace. Me too. Seeing this, the Deputy Alliance Master hurriedly looked at the sky and roared. However, it was too late. He couldn't even find a shadow. Damn it, he roared in his heart and glanced at Qin Feiyang and the others before turning around to escape. Where do you think you are going? The Hall of Famers hurriedly stopped him. The Hall Master of the Demon Hall, Elder Hua, and Chu Yun regained their senses and chased after the Deputy Alliance Master with their scarlet swords. Only Qin Feiyang and the ancient castle remained motionless. Qin Feiyang clenched his fists tightly. Even now, he still didn't have the strength to fight against the ice dragon. Just what realm had this bastard's cultivation reached? OL3, Big Brother is going back. You can continue. The little rabbit smiled and disappeared. Go back? Wait a minute. Qin Feiyang was startled and quickly turned to look at the little rabbit. However, the little rabbit had already disappeared. What a pity. Black Tortoise Realm. The white-eyed wolf watched as Elder Hai and the Hall Master of the Blood Hall were rescued by the ice dragon. His eyes were filled with regret. Wait. Maybe that guy will come back to save the Great Deacon. With the ice dragon's strength, if it wants to enter the Black Tortoise Realm, even the ancient castle won't be able to stop it. No, I have to act quickly. The white-eyed wolf mumbled and a golden beast shadow roared out from behind him. That's right. That was his fighting soul. Yi Tian, the lady in green, the black dragon, the fire Wan, the fire dragon, and the great deacon, who was on the verge of death, were shocked. They quickly raised their heads and looked at the white-eyed wolf's fighting soul. Immediately, a fear that came from the depths of their souls rose in their hearts. Black dragon, fire Wan, hold him down. The white-eyed wolf pointed at the great deacon and shouted. All right. The two beasts regained their senses and unleashed their auras to imprison the great deacon. Third superpower, activate. The white-eyed wolf roared and a crack appeared between the eyebrows of the fighting soul. Then, a third eye appeared. It was a dazzling golden eye that was as dazzling as the sun. Just as the third eye appeared, everyone present, including the Fire Lotus and the Mermaid Princess, felt their power of the laws uncontrollably break out of their bodies. Third superpower? The Fire Lotus and the Mermaid Princess looked at each other. The only superpower that they knew was the deprive fighting soul and deprive cultivation. Since when did a third superpower appear? Voila! Suddenly, the golden eye between the fighting soul's eyebrows emitted a divine light that surged toward the Grand Deacon like a tide. The Great Deacon was flustered and frantically struggled. This was because he could feel that the golden divine light was sucking away his power of the laws. However, the black dragon and the fire Luan's auras firmly imprisoned him. With his current state, he was unable to break free. Finally, the golden divine light engulfed the great deacon. Deprive. The white-eyed wolf's eyes were filled with excitement. With a low roar, the golden light forcefully pulled out a dark gray air current from the great deacon's body. This is, the mermaid princess and the fire lotus were shocked when they saw this. This was the great deacon's death law. What was going on? Could it be that the white-eyed wolf's third superpower was the deprive law? This was too strong. Deprive fighting soul, deprive cultivation, and now deprive law. Why didn't this guy go to heaven? Devour. The white-eyed wolf's roar rang out again. Then, the golden divine light turned into a large golden hand, firmly grasping the great deacon's law of death and rushing toward the golden eye between the war soul's eyebrows. At this moment, the great deacon could feel that he had lost the death law. He had lost it forever. He was furious. The death law was his strongest technique and he had lost it just like that. Even if he could survive, what could he do? After losing the death law, he was no different from an ordinary perfect stage dominator. At the same time, his heart was once again filled with shock. There was such a superpower in this world? Deprive law, this was more than terrifying. It was heaven-defying. Yi Tian and the green-clothed woman were also terrified. They had always thought that the strongest people in the Black Tortoise realm were Qin Feiyang and the mad scientist. They never thought that there was a wolf that was even more terrifying than Qin Feiyang and the mad scientist. In fact, it wasn't just them. Everyone in the Sky Cloud realm had their attention on Qin Feiyang and the mad scientist. They didn't take the white-eyed wolf seriously. Even the Devil Hall Master and the others didn't take a second look at the white-eyed wolf. However, they didn't know that the white-eyed wolf's technique was the most terrifying. Putting aside the third innate ability, even the first and second innate abilities were enough to make anyone tremble in fear. In the blink of an eye, the golden divine light carried the great deacon's death law and rushed into the fighting soul's golden eye. There's still the last step, fusion. The white-eyed wolf murmured. With a thought, the fighting soul quickly returned to his body. Then, the white-eyed wolf disappeared from everyone's sight with a face full of excitement. What's going on? Everyone looked at each other. Give me back the death law. After the great deacon came back to his senses, he hurriedly roared in the direction where the white-eyed wolf disappeared. He's worthless. Kill him. The white-eyed wolf's voice sounded in the distance. Understood. The black dragon and the fire Luan were also shocked by the white-eyed wolf's technique. They immediately regarded the white-eyed wolf as an opponent that couldn't be provoked. Then, the power of law gushed out and entered the great deacon's head. With a scream, the great deacon's head exploded like a watermelon. His heavily injured divine soul was annihilated on the spot. Chapter 3270. Bang! Looking at the headless corpse on the ground, Yi Tian and the woman in green couldn't help but feel their scalps go numb. This Wolf King was even more ruthless than Qin Feiyang and Madman. If it was anyone else, they would definitely think about whether they should take such a powerful giant for their own use. But this Wolf King actually killed him without any hesitation. Outside, facing the Hall of Famers, Elder Hua, the Blood Hall Master, Chu Yun, and the Red Sword, the deputy leader had no chance of escaping. In just a few rounds, his Qi was destroyed by the Hall of Famers. Immediately, the deputy leader also collapsed in the air, his face full of despair. Although you are usually selfish and overbearing, this old man has always treated you as a friend. But I never thought that you would actually be crazy enough to collude with the Blood Hall. The Hall of Famers looked at the deputy leader bitterly. This was simply a shame that the Rogue Cultivator Alliance would never be able to wash away in their lifetime. The deputy leader didn't say a word. He lowered his head and was already disheartened. Swish! At this moment, Qin Feiyang also landed beside the Hall of Famers with the castle. Looking at the deputy leader at this moment, he couldn't help but sigh and ask, "What benefits did the Blood Hall promise you?" The deputy leader still turned a deaf ear. "Is it useful for you to be silent like this? Do you know what kind of impact your actions will have on the Rogue Cultivator Alliance? Even if you don't think for the Rogue Cultivator Alliance or yourself, shouldn't you think for Yi Tian? Haven't you thought about how painful Yi Tian will be when he finds out about this?" Qin Feiyang said. The deputy leader's gaze trembled, and he finally raised his head to look at Qin Feiyang, saying, "Now that things have come to this, I don't want to say anything more. I just beg you not to tell Tian about this. It seems that you still care about Yi Tian." Qin Feiyang smiled faintly. "He is the only descendant of my Yi family. And he has nothing to do with this matter. You must believe me. This is my mistake. Don't implicate him." The Vice Alliance Master had a pleading look on his face. "I know this has nothing to do with Yi Tian. Moreover, I won't vent my anger on Yi Tian. However, whether we should tell him or not is no longer something we can control, because he already knows." Qin Feiyang said. "What?" The Vice Sect Master's body stiffened. Qin Feiyang waved his hand, and Yi Tian, the woman in green, and the fire dragon immediately appeared beside him. "Tian, Dandan. Fire dragon." The Vice Alliance Master's eyes trembled as he looked at the two humans and the beast. Qin Feiyang said lightly, "Do you still remember the two friends I went to pick up on Sky Cloud Island? Could it be them?" The Vice Alliance Master was bewildered. "That's right. The fire dragon has been following me in the form of a small snake. You saw him on Sky Cloud Island. However, do you know why I want Yi Tian to stay in the Black Tortoise world and witness everything with his own eyes?" Qin Feiyang asked. The Vice Alliance Master shook his head. Not to mention the Vice Alliance Master, even Elder Hua and Yi Tian himself didn't know Qin Feiyang's plan. Qin Feiyang took a deep breath and looked at the Vice Alliance Master. "I want to give you a chance to turn over a new leaf." "What?" Everyone immediately looked at Qin Feiyang, their eyes filled with shock. The Vice Alliance Master had done so many wrong things, and he still wanted to give him a chance. "There are two reasons why I did this. First, Yi Tian. Back then, during the battle in Wind Sea City, I admired Yi Tian and felt that he was a good person. Later, in the Alliance capital and the Hall of the Exalted, although I was acting when I was with you, I was sincere when I was with Yi Tian, and I treated him as a friend. I don't want him to lose you, his grandfather, because you are his only family in this world. Secondly, although you are selfish and ambitious, after spending time with you, I found that you are quite good to the people around you. Especially senior brother Feng Zi and I, whatever we need, you'll give us. You even gave us the legendary divine object that even Yi Tian didn't have. It can be seen that you are sincerely nurturing us and caring about us. To be honest, sometimes I am quite touched. Just like when Zhang de Yuan ambushed me, I only needed to send a message, and you immediately came to help me. Senior brother Feng Zi also taught him the law of death when he asked you to teach him the law of death. Otherwise, senior brother Feng Zi wouldn't have been able to comprehend the fifth profound so quickly. So, putting aside the personal grudges between us, I still respect you." Qin Feiyang said. "Respect me," the Vice Alliance Master murmured. He never thought that Qin Feiyang would say such words. "Actually, there is no personal grudge between us. All of this is controlled by the Blood Hall. If I'm not wrong, the condition for your cooperation with the Blood Hall should be the ancient castle, right? But have you ever thought about it? Even if you kill me, will the blood hull really give you the ancient castle? To put it bluntly, they are purely using you. For example, when they escaped this time, did they care about your life or death? Not at all. Because in their eyes, you have already been exposed and no longer have any value. You are equivalent to cannon fodder. Qin Feiyang sighed. The Vice Alliance Master was silent because Qin Feiyang's words made him so ashamed that he wished he could find a hole to hide in. Grandpa, everyone makes mistakes, but it is fine as long as they know their mistakes and can change. Qin Feiyang has already been so magnanimous. Can you not be so stubborn? Yi Tian also hurriedly advised. Yes, Grandpa Yi. Although I also don't like Qin Feiyang, what he said this time is reasonable. Even if you don't think for yourself and the Rogue Cultivator Alliance, you have to think for Brother Yi Tian. Do you know how the world will talk about Brother Yi Tian behind his back if this matter is spread out? I'm afraid that not only the people outside but also the people in the Rogue Cultivator Alliance will point at Brother Yi Tian's back and curse him. Think about it, how cruel is this to Brother Yi Tian? At that time, he will feel inferior and give up on himself. He won't even dare to raise his head when he meets people. His life may be ruined just like that. The green-clothed woman was also persuading him with reason and emotion. Hearing these words, the Vice Alliance Master's face became even paler. The Master of the Hall of the Exalted glanced at Qin Feiyang and the other two. He looked at the Vice Alliance Master and sighed. I also believe that you were blinded by greed for a moment. As long as you repent now, I will forgive you. The Vice Alliance Master looked at the group of people and couldn't help but tear up. Do you know? In another place, I have a master. In the beginning, the situation between me and him was actually similar to yours. But later, I moved him with my sincerity. Now, not only is he my master, but he is also the family that I care about the most. So, I hope that we can have such a relationship now. Let us forget the past and become each other's reliance. Qin Feiyang raised his arm and stretched it in front of the Vice Alliance Master with a sincere smile on his face. Become each other's reliance, the Vice Alliance Master murmured. Touched? Of course. Even a person with a heart of stone would melt upon hearing these words. But, once something was started, there was no turning back. Thank you for your forgiveness, but I'm sorry, I've sinned so much that I'm no longer worthy to be your master, grandfather, and the Vice Alliance Master of the Rogue Cultivator Alliance. The Vice Alliance Master lowered his head. His face was already filled with the determination to die. Elder Hu raised his eyebrows and said, Old Man Yi, these juniors have already forgiven you. Why are you still standing there? You don't understand. The Vice Alliance Master raised his head and stared at Elder Hu. He shouted, Not only was I blinded by greed, I even killed my own grandson. I even attacked my own disciple and did something even more unforgivable. The grandson he was referring to was naturally not Yi Tian but Yi Yuan. What is it? Elder Hu was suspicious. The Vice Alliance Master did not answer. He lowered his head again and his face was filled with pain. Qin Feiyang sized up the Vice Alliance Master and said, You're talking about the Alliance Master and the Fire Dragon's parents, right? Hearing this, the Vice Alliance Master immediately raised his head and looked at Qin Feiyang. Their disappearance really has something to do with you. Qin Feiyang sighed. When the Fire Dragon heard Qin Feiyang's words, he immediately rushed to the Vice Alliance Master and shouted furiously, Where are they now? What did you do to them? The Vice Alliance Master lowered his head again. Tell me. The Fire Dragon roared. Brother, calm down. Qin Feiyang quickly went forward to calm him down. How do you expect me to calm down now? The Fire Dragon roared and slapped the Vice Alliance Master's head with his claw. Streams of blood immediately flowed out. Stop. Yi Tian also rushed over and stood between the fire dragon and the Vice Alliance master. He looked at the fire dragon and said, "I'll take the blame for my grandfather's mistake. Kill me." Tian, The Vice Alliance master's gaze trembled. He raised his head and looked at Yi Tian's back. He actually wanted his own grandson to take the blame for his sins. He felt even more pain and self-blame in his heart. "You think I don't dare?" The fire dragon stared at Yi Tian with murderous intent in his eyes. "After being together for so many years, I've never doubted your courage. I just want to atone for my grandfather's sins. Brother Fire Dragon, I've always treated you as my brother. I beg you, please kill me and forgive my grandfather." After Yi Tian finished speaking, he directly knelt in front of the fire dragon. Tian, Seeing that Yi Tian actually knelt for him, the Vice Alliance master immediately burst into tears. The guilt in his heart was even more intense. He looked at the fire dragon and said, "This is all my fault. I'm willing to use my life to repay my debt." After saying that, he slapped the top of his head. "Grandfather," Yi Tian turned his head and immediately grit his teeth. However, it was also at this moment that Qin Feiyang grabbed the Vice Alliance master's wrist and shook his head. "Any mistake can be remedied. Why do you want to commit suicide? Besides, can you really free your heart by doing this?" The Vice Alliance master's body trembled. He lowered his head and cried bitterly. "What sin have I committed?" Qin Feiyang sighed and let go of the Vice Alliance master's hand. He looked at the fire dragon and said, "Brother, don't be anxious. Let's ask clearly first." The fire dragon looked at the Vice Alliance master who was hugging his head and crying bitterly. He then looked at Yi Tian whose face was filled with pain. He took a deep breath and seemed very tired. "Ask away." Qin Feiyang also breathed a sigh of relief. He squatted in the void and looked at the Vice Alliance master. He smiled and said, "Master, we're not afraid of making mistakes. We're afraid of not daring to face them after making a mistake. You're not an ordinary person. You're the Vice Alliance master and a big shot of the Eastern continent." Chapter 3271. "Yeah, Grandpa Yi, we've all chosen to forgive you. Why do you have to make things difficult for yourself?" The woman in green sighed softly. These things were not only a huge blow to Yi Tian, but also to her. Especially when she saw Yi Tian in pain, she couldn't help but feel a faint pain in her heart. In fact, making such a mistake was unforgivable no matter where it was. However, whether it was Qin Feiyang or the Hall of Famers, they all chose to give the deputy chief a chance to turn over a new leaf. This also meant that everyone really cared about this person. However, it was also because of Qin Feiyang and the others' magnanimity that the deputy chief felt even more ashamed in his heart. First of all, Qin Feiyang had already tried to murder Qin Feiyang more than once. Take the incident in Wind Sea City as an example. If it were someone else, they would have already died. As for the Hall of Famers, he had also personally destroyed the Qi Sea of the Hall of Famers. If it weren't for Qin Feiyang, the Hall of Famers would have definitely been killed by now. However, even so, the two of them chose to forgive him. This method of repaying evil with good made him feel extremely painful and guilty. If the two of them beat him up and scolded him now, he would feel better in his heart. "Master, be brave. Your old rivals are still watching from the side. You must not let them look down on you." Qin Feiyang smiled slightly and stretched out his hand in front of the deputy chief again. "Master," the deputy chief's gaze trembled. When he heard Qin Feiyang call him master again, the feeling in his heart was completely different from before. Not only was he gratified, but he was also touched. Because even so, this disciple did not despise him and was even willing to call him master. He then looked at Elder Hua and the other two. The old rivals that Qin Feiyang mentioned were naturally these three people. Why are you looking at us? Although your way of doing things is indeed uncomfortable, this is after all an internal matter of your rogue cultivator alliance. As the parties involved, they did not pursue this matter. What right do outsiders like us have to ask? However, this old man still has something to say. This opportunity is hard to come by. There aren't many kind-hearted people like Qin Feiyang in this world. Cherish it. Elder Hua said indifferently. Hearing this, the Vice Alliance leader looked at Qin Feiyang again. Finally, he smiled and reached out to grab Qin Feiyang's hand. Qin Feiyang also faintly smiled. With a bit of strength, he pulled the Vice Alliance master up. That's right. You're already so old. Don't be so pretentious like a child. If there's a problem, you have to take responsibility and face it bravely. The Hall of Famers looked at the vice leader with disdain, but there was a hint of a smile in his eyes. The vice leader smiled bitterly and turned to look at the Hall of Famers. He said gratefully, "Old Qi, thank you. Can you stop being so sentimental? Let's talk business. Where are the Alliance Master and the others?" The Hall of Famers asked. The Vice Alliance leader was silent for a while and sighed. "They're in the Blood Hall." Blood Hall? The Hall of Famers frowned. Yes. The Vice Alliance leader nodded. Why are they in the Blood Hall? The Hall of Famers was puzzled. It's all my fault. The Vice Alliance leader sighed. We're not talking about whose fault it is, but the reason for this matter. The Hall of Famers looked at him angrily. Qin Feiyang looked at the two and smiled. How about this? This isn't the place to talk. Let's go to the Black Tortoise world and have a chat while drinking tea. Who's in the mood to drink tea now? The Hall of Famers shook his head and sighed. But it's useless to be anxious about this matter. Let's not talk about the reason first. Just the fact that the Alliance Master and the others are imprisoned in the Blood Hall is not so easy to solve. Qin Feiyang said. The Hall of Famers pondered for a while and nodded. That's true. Then let's go to the Black Tortoise world. We'll sit down and talk slowly. Speaking of which, this old man hasn't been to your Black Tortoise world yet. I'm really curious. Qin Feiyang waved his hand and a group of people appeared in the tea garden. There was a stone table about 2 meters long and 1 meter wide in the tea garden. There were 8 stone benches on the 4 sides. The stone table was actually a tea table. It was personally made by the Fire Lotus for tea tasting. The tea table was located at the center of the tea garden. There were green tea trees around it that swayed in the wind. Every tea leaf seemed to be made of jade. It was crystal clear and emitted rays of light. Not only was the environment beautiful, but it was also very quiet. Drinking tea here could make one calm down unknowingly. Qin Feiyang stood beside the stone table and smiled. Take a seat. The Demon Hall Master, Elder Hua, and Chu Yun were already very familiar with this place, so they didn't stand on ceremony and immediately sat on the left side of the stone table. There were 3 stone benches on the left and right sides. There was one on each side. The vice leader and the Hall of Famers were different. It was their first time in the Black Tortoise world, so they couldn't help but look around curiously. My dear wife, help make the tea. Qin Feiyang didn't disturb them and whispered to the mermaid princess beside him. Okay. The mermaid princess nodded and turned to walk quickly to the courtyard. I'll go help too. Fire Lotus said with a smile and chased after the mermaid princess. Madman walked to Qin Feiyang's side and looked at the vice leader. He transmitted his voice. Old Qin, what do you mean? Are you going to let him go just like that? What else? Qin Feiyang asked. Anyway, it's better to let him go. Madman snorted. Qin Feiyang said, "Look at you, you're someone who does great things. Why are you so short-sighted? What good will killing him do for us? Vent our anger." Madman said. Qin Feiyang rolled his eyes and transmitted his voice. "Although he did harm us, you have to admit that he has helped both of us, especially you. Without him, would you be able to comprehend the fifth profound of the law of death so quickly?" Madman was speechless. "Besides, didn't you also say that, putting everything else aside, this person is indeed not bad in other aspects?" Qin Feiyang smiled faintly. "All right, I admit that other than greed, he's good in other aspects." Madman nodded. "So, as long as we can reform such a person, it will definitely be helpful to us in the future. After all, the enemy we have to face is not just the Blood Hall, but the even more powerful Ice Dragon." Qin Feiyang sighed inwardly. When he thought of how powerful Ice Dragon was, he couldn't help but feel helpless. That's the logic. But are you sure you can reform him? Maybe right now, he's just pretending in front of you. Madman secretly said. Some things can't be faked. I believe that he's a person with a conscience. Qin Feiyang transmitted his voice. All right. I don't dare to speak about other aspects, but in terms of judging people, you have always been quite accurate. Madman pursed his lips. What do you mean I don't dare to speak about other aspects? Am I bad in other aspects? Qin Feiyang frowned. Whether you're bad or not, don't you know in your heart? Madman despised. Qin Feiyang smiled helplessly. Tea is here. At this time, Mermaid Princess and Fire Lotus walked over with a pot of tea and a tea set. Qin Feiyang looked at the deputy leader and the Hall of Famers and said with a smile, Master, Hall Master, please take a seat. The two retracted their gazes and looked at each other with shock in their eyes. Who would have thought that such a young man was actually the ruler of a world? The two walked to the left side of the stone table and sat opposite Elder Hua and the other two. Brother Yi Tian, you sit too. Qin Feiyang looked at Yi Tian who was beside him. Yi Tian turned to the fire dragon next to him and said with a smile, Brother Fire Dragon, you should sit. Stop trying to curry favor. Fire Dragon glared at him fiercely. Yi Tian couldn't help but smile bitterly and simply stood behind the deputy leader. Qin Feiyang didn't say much. Anyway, there were only a few stools. Whoever wanted to sit could sit. Fire Lotus and Mermaid Princess poured tea and served it to them one by one. Then, they stood beside Qin Feiyang obediently. The Hall of Famers took a sip of the tea and said with a smile, The more I drink your tea, the more I like it. These tea leaves were harvested from these tea trees. And these tea trees were all cultivated by Fiery Lotus. So, in the Sky Cloud realm, there is only one such tea tree, and no other. Qin Feiyang pointed at Fire Lotus and said with a smile. The Hall of Famers immediately looked at Fire Lotus with admiration in his eyes. What are you looking at? Elder Hua glared at the Hall of Famers. The Hall of Famers was stunned and looked at Elder Hua suspiciously. Elder Hua snorted coldly, Fire Lotus is now my disciple, so you'd better not have any ideas about her. What? When the Hall of Famers heard this, he was surprised. The deputy leader was the same. As old rivals, they naturally knew Elder Hua's character. Not to mention an ordinary person, even a core disciple of the Demon Hall wouldn't enter his eyes. But now, he had accepted this little girl as his disciple, and it seemed like he cared a lot about her. Old man, you don't know, but Fire Lotus has grasped the law of time. Frenzy looked at the Hall of Famers and chuckled. The law of time. The Hall of Famers' gaze trembled. No wonder Elder Hua cared so much about it, and no wonder he was hostile to him. Because he also grasped the law of time, Elder Hua naturally thought that he wanted to snatch this beloved disciple from him. He glanced at Elder Hua speechlessly and shook his head. Don't worry, I already have little Frenzy as my disciple, so I won't snatch her from you. The key is that you have to be able to snatch her from me. Elder Hua smiled coldly. What do you mean? Putting everything else aside, I'm not any worse than you in terms of the law of time. If you didn't get close to her, it's hard to say who would be her disciple. The Hall of Famers snorted coldly. He had already expressed his stance, and Elder Hua still wanted to take advantage of him. Elder Hua's expression stiffened. He stood up and said, Then, do you want to compete with me? Let's compete. Whoever wins will be her master, said Yi Futian. The Hall of Famers also stood up and confronted him. Qin Feiyang and Frenzy looked at each other. Why did they start to snatch people? Don't. You are all respected seniors, and it's our honor to receive your love and care. Please don't hurt the harmony because of us. Qin Feiyang had no choice but to stand up and smooth things over. Chapter 3272. Friendly? Do you think the Demonic Palace and the Rogue Cultivator Alliance are still friendly? Elder Hua sneered. That's right. If it weren't for the sovereign weapon, the Demonic Palace might not be the ruler of the Eastern continent. The Hall of Famers also sneered. That's right. We have the sovereign weapon. So what? Elder Hua looked at him proudly. Some people are shameless. What can I do? I can't be shameless too. The Hall of Famers chuckled. Elder Hua's expression froze and he said angrily, Who are you calling shameless? You have to explain it to me today. You know who I'm talking about. The Hall of Famers said calmly. Looking at the two who were getting more and more aggressive, Qin Feiyang said helplessly, Why can't the two of you sit down and get along peacefully? Elder Hua glanced at Qin Feiyang and nodded. All right, I'll give you face and not argue with him. You make it sound like I'm afraid of you. The Hall of Famers stroked his beard and said calmly. Are you trying to take advantage of me? Elder Hua suddenly stood up and glared at the Hall of Famers. But at this moment, the fire dragon slammed the stone table and roared, Aren't you guys annoying? They were all people who were about to die. Couldn't they just stop for a moment? Do you still think you're a kid? Elder Hua and the Hall of Famers couldn't help but smile awkwardly. All right, let's get down to business. Qin Feiyang shook his head and smiled. He looked at the deputy leader and said, Master, tell me, what happened back then? The deputy leader held the teacup with both hands and pondered for a while. He then sighed and said, The reason for this is because of the grudge between the Demonic Palace and the Blood Palace. How is it related to the Demonic Palace? The Demonic Palace leader frowned. The vice leader raised his head and glanced at the Demon Hall's leader. Your Demon Hall and the Blood Hall have been enemies for a long time. Both of you want to get rid of each other. The rise of my Independent Cultivator Alliance is an opportunity for the Blood Hall to get rid of you. The Demon Hall's Hall Master thought for a moment and frowned. Do you mean that the Blood Hall wants to use you to get rid of our Demon Hall? You could say that. The vice leader nodded. Yes means yes, no means no. What do you mean by yes? When the Demon Hall's Hall Master heard this, he seemed somewhat displeased. Because no matter how developed our Rogue Cultivator Alliance is, it's impossible for us to defeat your Devil Palace. Just as old Qi said before, after all, you have the sovereign divine weapon. Therefore, as you said, it's impossible for the Blood Hall to use us to get rid of you. As for the Blood Hall's true intention, it is to have our Rogue Cultivator Alliance cooperate with them. They want us to work together to eliminate your Devil Palace. The vice leader said. These damned bastards. The Demon Hall Master's eyes turned cold. The Blood Hall has sent people to look for the Alliance Master many times. The Blood Hall's Hall Master even came personally a few times. They said that as long as we work together to eliminate the Devil Palace, not only will the Rogue Cultivator Alliance be able to replace the Devil Palace and rule the Eastern Continent, but they will also be able to obtain the sovereign divine weapon of your Devil Palace. However, the Alliance Master never agreed to this. Because in the Alliance Master's eyes, no matter how deep the grudge between the Rogue Cultivator Alliance and the Devil Palace is, this is an internal matter of the Eastern Continent. Therefore, he doesn't allow the Blood Hall to interfere, nor does he want to work with the Blood Hall. Therefore, the Blood Hall came to look for me and gave me a series of tempting conditions. The Vice Leader sighed. At this point, he was filled with regret. So you agreed to the Blood Hall? The Fire Dragon said angrily. At first, I didn't agree. However, under the instigation of the Blood Hall, I really couldn't control the desire and ambition in my heart. I'm not afraid of being mocked by you. Although I have a good relationship with the Alliance Master, I've always been dissatisfied with him because he's not decisive and ruthless enough. Then, one day, the Blood Hall's Hall Master came to look for me personally. After his repeated persuasion and temptation, I finally agreed to him. He also promised that after the matter was settled, he would let me become the Alliance Master of the Rogue Cultivator Alliance and the ruler of the Eastern Continent. So, I started to plan. Finally, one day, I found an opportunity to drink with the Alliance Master and the Fire Dragon's parents. I took the opportunity to sneak an attack on them. The Vice Leader lowered his head and sighed. You're a bastard. The Fire Dragon roared. Yes. I'm a bastard. The Alliance Master treats me like family, but I plotted against him behind his back. I'm not worthy of being called a human. The Vice Leader clenched his fists tightly, his face full of regret. What happened after that? Qin Feiyang asked. The Vice Leader said, later, the Blood Hall's Hall Master brought them to the Western Continent and told me to kill them when I returned. Then, aren't they already dead now? The Fire Dragon's body stiffened. No. They're not dead. The Vice Leader raised his head, looked at the Fire Dragon, and shook his head. Not dead? The Fire Dragon was slightly taken aback. He rushed to the Vice Leader and asked, You're not lying to me? I'm not lying to you. On the eve of the exchange conference, Old Hai came to me to discuss how to deal with Fei Yang and Frenzy. He personally said that they didn't kill the Alliance Master. Listening to them, they wanted to persuade the Alliance Master to work for them. Because the Alliance Master is very strong, they couldn't bear to kill him. So now, they must be locked up somewhere in the Blood Hall. The Vice Leader said. Bastard, it's all your fault. The Fire Dragon was furious. I'm sorry. The Vice Leader lowered his head and blamed himself. Qin Feiyang pondered for a while, then turned to look at the Mermaid Princess and said, Go and ask the two ancestors if they saw the Alliance Master and the Fire Dragon's parents in the Blood Hall. Okay. The Mermaid Princess nodded, turned around, and left quickly. Fire Dragon, don't worry. For us, this is good news because as long as they're not dead, there's still hope to save them. Qin Feiyang looked at the Fire Dragon and comforted him. I'll go. I'll go to the Western Continent personally. Even if I have to risk my life, I'll save them. The Vice Leader roared. You're going to the Western Continent? I think you're trying to find an excuse to go to the Blood Hall. The Fire Dragon sneered. I'm not. The Vice Leader looked up at the Fire Dragon and said, I admit that everything I've done has made you sad and disappointed, but I've really come to my senses. I just want to make up for the mistakes I've made in the past. At this point, the Vice Leader looked at Qin Feiyang and said, Feiyang, don't you have a kind of control secret technique? You can control me now. If I go against you, you can erase my soul immediately. This, Qin Feiyang's expression froze. Okay. That's what you said. Qin Feiyang, control him now. Otherwise, I really can't trust him. The fire dragon looked at Qin Feiyang and said. The vice leader said, Feiyang, don't worry. I'm willing to do this. Just treat it as if you're supervising me. Qin Feiyang looked at the fire dragon, then at the vice leader, and finally at the Hall of Famers and Yi Tian. Yi Tian pondered for a moment, took a deep breath, and looked at everyone. As long as I can get everyone's trust in grandfather, I have no objections. Even I can be controlled by Qin Feiyang. Since even Yi Tian said so, I won't object. Besides, we all know Qin Feiyang's character. Even if we put our lives in his hands, we can completely trust him. The Hall of Famers thought for a while, then nodded his head. Feiyang, come on. This is the only way to regain everyone's trust. The vice leader looked at Qin Feiyang with determination in his eyes. Who? Qin Feiyang let out a long breath and nodded, all right, then I'll have to trouble you first. With that, a slave seal appeared and entered the vice leader's head like lightning. During the entire process, the vice leader did not resist at all and smoothly completed his control. The vice leader looked at the fire dragon and asked, now, you can rest assured. The fire dragon looked at Qin Feiyang, then looked at the vice leader and snorted, then I'll believe you again. At this time, the mermaid princess returned and shook her head at Qin Feiyang. I've asked the two ancestors where they were imprisoned. Other than themselves and the people guarding them, they didn't see anyone else. That's expected. After all, the leader and the fire dragon's parents are both top powerhouses in the sky cloud realm. The leader's comprehension of the space-time law is also known as the number one person in the sky cloud realm. The place where they were imprisoned must be quite secretive. It's even possible that they weren't imprisoned at all. Qin Feiyang shook his head. They weren't imprisoned? Everyone was taken aback. Just now, Master also said that the Blood Hall wants to persuade the leader to join the Blood Hall and serve them. And for a powerhouse like the leader, you definitely can't do it by force. The most rational way is to entertain them politely and then persuade them with reason and emotion. In short, the possibility of them being imprisoned is not high. They should be under house arrest somewhere. Qin Feiyang speculated. That makes sense. Everyone nodded when they heard this. Qin Feiyang sighed, so, to find the leader and the others is probably not an ordinary difficulty. The fire dragon pondered for a while, then pointed to the vice leader and said, you can let him go to the Blood Hall. What do you mean? Qin Feiyang was suspicious. Although he has turned over a new leaf, the people of the Blood Hall don't know. We can let him go to the Western continent and pretend to join the Blood Hall. In fact, he can investigate the whereabouts of the leader and my parents. The fire dragon said. This idea works. The vice leader couldn't help but nod when he heard this. See? If he himself said it's okay, then it's definitely okay. The fire dragon looked at Qin Feiyang and said. Okay, your ass. Before Qin Feiyang could speak, Madman glared at the fire dragon. Is there a problem? The fire dragon was puzzled. Nonsense, it's not just a problem, it's a big problem. Do you think the Blood Hall is a bunch of idiots? The vice leader has already fallen into our hands. When he runs to the Blood Hall, how will he explain it to the people of the Blood Hall? Say, he escaped with his own ability? Do you think it's possible? We have so many people and 2 sovereign divine weapons. How can he escape from our hands? Or rather, we let him go out of kindness. If that's the case, would you believe it? Madman rolled his eyes at the fire dragon. Chapter 3273. If it's me, Fire Dragon muttered, I definitely don't believe it, but other than this, is there any other way? Qin Feiyang pondered for a while and suddenly thought of something. He looked at Madman and asked, "Where's the Grand Deacon?" "Buried." Madman said. "Buried?" Qin Feiyang was stunned. The Vice Alliance Master, the Hall of the Exalted Hall Master, and Elder Hua were also stunned. What's going on? How could a perfectly fine person be buried like this? Buried, then he must be dead. Madman said. Dead? Qin Feiyang and the others looked at each other. They were fighting outside and really didn't know about this matter. Brother Qin, it's like this. The Black Dragon briefly explained the situation at the time. What? Deprive the power of the law. Not to mention Qin Feiyang, even the big shots like the Hall of Famers were shocked. There's actually such a heaven-defying ability? After White-Eyed Wolf deprived him of the law of death, he let Black Dragon and Fire Luan kill him, so Fire Lotus let Pai Lupi and Theta Wang drag his body to be buried. Madman said. How many things is this wolf cub hiding that we don't know? Also, why did he deprive the Grand Deacon of the law of death? Qin Feiyang's face was filled with suspicion. Who knows? After depriving him of the law of death, he slipped away without saying a word. Madman shook his head. Qin Feiyang frowned. It seems that I have to find a time to interrogate this guy. He's always so mysterious. Then, he looked at everyone and shook his head with a wry smile. I originally wanted to ask something from the Grand Deacon, but it seems that my hopes are dashed. Let me go. The vice leader looked at Qin Feiyang and said. No. Let's not talk about the Blood Hall first. Even the Ice Dragon's sacred sword isn't that easy to ignore. If you go to the Blood Hall, you will be courting death. You don't have to worry about the Alliance leader. Anyway, Senior Brother Feng Zi and I are going to the Western Continent. When the time comes, we'll get to the bottom of this. As for you, all you need to do now is rest and recuperate in the Eastern Continent. Once you receive our news, you can come to the Western Continent to rescue them. After saying this, Qin Feiyang glanced at Elder Hua and the others and said with a smile, Seniors, I hope you can lend me a hand. This matter, Elder Hua glanced at the Vice Alliance Master and said indifferently, logically speaking, we should be happy that the Rogue Cultivator Alliance has become like this. However, there's nothing we can do about it. Who asked you to be disciples of our Devil Palace? Moreover, there's also Fire Lotus. This old man will consider it. His words were directed at the Vice Alliance Master and the Hall of Famers. The Devil Palace was not sincerely helping them. It was only doing so because of these juniors. Thank you. How could the Vice Alliance Master not understand? However, he still stood up and thanked Elder Hua sincerely. Elder Hua sized up the Vice Alliance Master and shook his head. Don't be so humble all of a sudden. This old man is not used to it. The Vice Alliance Master smiled bitterly. He looked at Qin Feiyang and Feng Zi and said, Then I'll have to trouble you. Senior Brother Feng Zi and I are your and the Hall Master's disciples. Therefore, the Rogue Cultivator Alliance's matter is also our matter. Moreover, the Blood Hall is our common enemy. Now that the Blood Hall has the Ice Dragon as their backer, if we don't work together, we won't be able to defeat them. Qin Feiyang shook his head and sighed. Speaking of the Ice Dragon, it's too strong. With it protecting the Blood Hall, it won't be easy to deal with the Blood Hall. Chu Yun said with some worry. Qin Feiyang waved his hand and said, Don't worry about that. Although it's strong, it doesn't dare to attack casually. Otherwise, we would have died in its hands this time. Why? Chu Yun was curious. It didn't dare to attack casually. That was strange. I don't know the reason. But I'm sure of one thing. Back then in the lower realm, the Ice Dragon had a tribe. This tribe was slaughtered by us, but I didn't see it make a move. It only saved its wife and children. Qin Feiyang said. If that's the case, then this matter is easy to handle. Chu Yun nodded. By the way. Qin Feiyang suddenly patted his head, looked at Elder Hua and Chu Yun, and asked, "How's the search for the person I asked you to help me find back then?" Chu Yun hesitated. "Have you found anything?" Qin Feiyang was overjoyed. "We did find one of them. There's a snow python with him," Chu Yun nodded. Qin Feiyang, Mermaid Princess, Fire Lotus, and Feng Zi looked at each other. As soon as they heard the snow python, they knew who it was. "Where is he now?" Qin Feiyang quickly asked. "I don't know. When I found him, he told me not to let you know his whereabouts. Originally, I wanted to force him to stay, but his comprehension of the space-time law was actually above mine. In the blink of an eye, he disappeared." Chu Yun said. "What? His comprehension of the space-time law is actually above yours?" Qin Feiyang and the others were shocked. "Yes." Chu Yun nodded. Qin Feiyang looked at Feng Zi and said with a wry smile, "It seems that we still underestimated him." "Yeah. This guy, I don't know where he came from." Feng Zi shook his head. He had never seen such a mysterious person. The key was that he was so strong. "What about the fire Qilin?" Qin Feiyang asked. "There's no news about the fire Qilin. In short, other than that young man and the snow python, I didn't find any of the other people you're looking for," Chu Yun said. "It seems that they might have gone to the western, northern, and southern continent." "What a headache." Qin Feiyang rubbed his forehead. The others didn't matter, but the fire Qilin had to be found as soon as possible because the seal of the ancient castle could only be broken with the fire Qilin's blood. If they are really in the sky cloud realm, it won't be difficult to find them even in the western, northern, and southern continents. It will just take some time. Chu Yun thought for a while and looked at Qin Feiyang. "Really?" Qin Feiyang looked at her. "Yes. My Demon Palace's forces are not only distributed in the eastern continent, we also have people in the other 3 continents. But relatively speaking, it's definitely not as fast and convenient as in the eastern continent." Chu Yun smiled. Qin Feiyang was overjoyed and hurriedly said, "It doesn't matter if it's a bit slow, as long as we can find them, especially that fire Qilin. No matter what, we have to find it." "All right then, I'll go back and arrange it." After saying that, Chu Yun glanced at the Deputy Alliance Leader and the Master of the Hall of the Exalted and said, "Don't forget about them. The power that the Rogue Cultivators Alliance has developed in the 3 continents over the years should not be underestimated." Qin Feiyang immediately looked at the Vice Leader and the Hall of Famers. The Vice Leader smiled bitterly and said to Chu Yun, "You really think highly of us. No matter how we develop, we can't compare to your Demon Palace." After saying that, he looked at Qin Feiyang and said with a smile, "We will try our best to help you find them." "Thank you, Master." Qin Feiyang smiled gratefully. If the Demon Palace and the Rogue Cultivator Alliance worked together, the efficiency would definitely be higher. The Vice Leader waved his hand and asked, "What do they look like?" Qin Feiyang waved his hand, and the fire Qilin, Tan Wu, Hell Godhound, and Li Feng's phantoms appeared. He then said, "The main point is to find the whereabouts of the fire Qilin." "Yes." The Vice Leader nodded. Qin Feiyang pondered for a moment before looking at the Vice Leader and saying, "Master, there's something I have to confess to you." "What is it?" The Vice Leader was puzzled. "Actually, Zhuo Tiansheng and Lu Zhengyuan are somewhat related to us. Back then, Zhuo Tiansheng severed their relationship as father and daughter in order to protect Zhuo Shaoxian." After Qin Feiyang finished speaking, he hurriedly added, "But don't worry, their loyalty to the Rogue Cultivator Alliance is definitely not a problem." "I see." The Vice Leader smiled in realization. "Well, please don't blame them," Qin Feiyang said. If it was in the past, I definitely wouldn't let them off so easily. But now, I've taken it lightly. Don't worry, I won't make things difficult for them. That's not right. Since you and little lunatic trust them so much, you have to entrust them with important tasks. The vice leader turned to look at the Hall of Famers and asked, "Isn't the position of the 10th elder still empty? Why don't we choose between the two of them?" The Hall of Famers was stunned and said with some concern, "That's not appropriate. After all, both of them are only perfected dominators. It's hard to convince the masses. Actually, strength isn't important. It's fine as long as they have the ability." The vice leader said. The Hall of Famers thought for a moment and nodded. "All right then. Do as you see fit. After all, you've always been the one making the arrangements." Qin Feiyang and Lunatic looked at each other and couldn't help but smile. This could be considered the best repayment for Lu Zhengyuan and Zhuo Tiansheng. Lastly, there's one more thing. Regarding Master's situation, I hope that everyone present can keep their mouths shut. Qin Feiyang looked at Elder Hua and the other two and cupped his hands. I know that the Wandering Cultivator Alliance has always been on bad terms with the Demon Hall. This is undoubtedly an excellent opportunity for the Demon Hall. Because as long as Master's actions are publicized, not only will Master's reputation be ruined, but the Wandering Cultivator Alliance will also lose the support of the people. At that time, the Demon Hall won't even need to do anything. The Wandering Cultivator Alliance will slowly walk towards destruction. However, the vice leader is still my master, so I hope that the three of you can be merciful. After Qin Feiyang finished speaking, he lowered his head with a pleading expression. The three hall masters looked at each other and fell silent for a moment. The Vice Alliance master glanced at the Demon Hall's hall master and the other two. Seeing Qin Feiyang's sincere and humble attitude, the Vice Alliance master blamed himself even more. He said, "Feiyang, you don't have to be like this. This is what I deserve. Once we return, I will bear all the responsibility. I will definitely not drag down the Wandering Cultivator Alliance." Qin Feiyang didn't reply. He only looked at the three hall masters. Yi Tian glanced at Qin Feiyang and bowed at the three hall masters. He said, "Junior is also begging you." "Me too." The green-clothed woman also stood out. The Demon Hall Master glanced at Qin Feiyang and the other two Hall Masters before looking at the Vice Leader. He then shook his head and said, "Our relationship has become a little complicated now." Elder Hua and Chu Yun also smiled bitterly. Qin Feiyang and Madman were the Vice Leader and the personal disciples of the Hall of Famers respectively. At the same time, Qin Feiyang and Madman were also disciples of the Demon Hall. Moreover, Fire Lotus was also Elder Hua's personal disciple. Because of Qin Feiyang and the other two Hall Masters, the relationship between the Demon Hall and the Wandering Cultivator Alliance was different from before. To be honest, they didn't know how to deal with this relationship at the moment. Chapter 3274. Logically speaking, a mountain couldn't contain two tigers. The Demon Hall should take this opportunity to destroy the Rogue Cultivator Alliance. But now, Qin Feiyang was pleading for mercy for the Rogue Cultivator Alliance. This made things a little difficult. Even if we don't say anything, I'm afraid we can't hide this matter. Madman suddenly said. Everyone looked up at Madman. Think about it. Who will suffer the greatest loss if the Vice Leader turns over a new leaf? Of course it's the Blood Hall. When the Blood Hall receives the news that the Vice Leader is still in the Rogue Cultivator Alliance, will they let the Vice Leader off easily? Madman said. Makes sense. Elder Hua nodded and looked at Qin Feiyang. This matter definitely can't be hidden, especially if we have to find a way to cover it up. Why don't we think of a way to solve it? I've already thought of this and I've also thought of a way to deal with it. Qin Feiyang smiled. What way? Elder Hua was suspicious. You'll know when the time comes. After Qin Feiyang finished speaking, he pondered for a moment and looked at Elder Hua and the other two. The Demon Hall and the Rogue Cultivator Alliance have had a grudge for many years. It's indeed difficult to resolve it in a short period of time. However, after this incident, I believe the Rogue Cultivator Alliance will reconsider their current relationship. I have a suggestion. I wonder if you're willing to listen to it. What suggestion? Elder Hua and the other two looked at him in confusion. The vice leader, Hall of Famers, Yi Tian, and the woman in green were also curious. The Demon Hall and the Rogue Cultivator Alliance will temporarily enter a state of peace. After we rescue the Alliance leader, we'll sit together and discuss a solution that's good for both sides. Qin Feiyang smiled. I agree. The vice leader thought for a moment and nodded in agreement. He then looked at Elder Hua and the other two. I don't have any objections. The Hall of Famers also expressed their stance. This, Elder Hua and the other two looked at each other and seemed to be hesitating. The Blood Hall is our common enemy. What we should do now is not to have internal strife, but to work together to deal with the Blood Hall. After all, the Blood Hall is extraordinarily strong. It's impossible to get rid of them with our strength alone. Furthermore, think about it carefully. Who would benefit the most from eliminating the Blood Hall? It would undoubtedly be your Devil Hall. Qin Feiyang was not in a hurry. He looked at the three of them and smiled faintly. The Hall Master glanced at Qin Feiyang, then turned to Elder Hua and said, You decide. My decision? Elder Hua was stunned. Chu Yun also sent a voice transmission, You were the one who advocated getting close to Qin Feiyang, so it's best for you to decide. What do you mean by trying to get close to me? This is called mutual benefit, okay? Do you know how to talk? Elder Hua rolled his eyes at her. Anyway, it's the same thing. You know Qin Feiyang better than we do, so we believe in your judgment. Chu Yun thought to herself. After hearing this, Elder Hua pondered for a moment, before taking a deep breath and glancing at Qin Feiyang. Fine, we'll do as you say. We'll keep this a secret for now, and talk about it after we rescue the leader of the Rogue Cultivator Alliance. Thank you for your trust. Qin Feiyang bowed and thanked him, finally stabilizing the situation for the time being. However, he should be fair in this matter and not be biased towards the Rogue Cultivator Alliance. Otherwise, it would be equivalent to letting down Elder Hua's trust. Whoosh! Right at this moment. In the sky. Suddenly, a silhouette appeared without a sound. It was an ice dragon that was more than a meter long. How dare you barge into the Black Tortoise realm? Don't go too far. An angry roar sounded from the ancient castle. Qin Feiyang and the others were shocked and quickly looked around. It's him. Yi Tian was the first to find the ice dragon, and he could not help but exclaim. Qin Feiyang and the others looked up, and their pupils constricted. Where's the Blood Hall's Grand Deacon? The ice dragon looked down at Qin Feiyang. Qin Feiyang took a step forward and landed in front of the ice dragon. He sneered and said, I'm sorry, you're a step too late. He's already dead. The ice dragon frowned and released his divine sense, covering the entire area. Qin Feiyang did not stop him because he could not stop him. It was fine as long as the ice dragon did not act recklessly in the Black Tortoise realm. After a while, at the border between the Devil's Land and the eastern region, a piece of land collapsed. A headless corpse flew into the sky and landed in front of the ice dragon. That's right. This was the Grand Deacon's corpse. Qin Feiyang glanced at the corpse. Although the Grand Deacon was dead, every drop of his blood emitted a powerful divine aura. After all, he was a peak sovereign. A drop of his blood was enough to destroy a mountain. You're really ruthless. You killed such a big shot just like that. The ice dragon looked at the Grand Deacon's corpse and then looked up at Qin Feiyang. Thank you for the compliment, but I'm still lacking compared to you. Qin Feiyang smiled faintly. The dragon god sword has fallen and the Grand Deacon has been killed. This time, you've won a great victory. However, if you think that this can affect me, then you're gravely mistaken. The ice dragon sneered. I know. After all, not everyone has a heart. Qin Feiyang smiled. Are you saying that I'm heartless? The ice dragon frowned. You're so strong. Would I dare to say that? I still want to live for a few more years. As for your son, I haven't seen him in so many years. How is he doing? I really miss him. Qin Feiyang chuckled. The ice dragon's pupils shrank. If you dare to touch him, I guarantee that you'll regret being born. What are you thinking about? I really miss him and admire him. Because in my opinion, he has more emotions than any of you dragons. If not for our different identities and positions, we could definitely be friends. Qin Feiyang smiled faintly. Ice Dragon sized up Qin Feiyang for a moment before lowering his head to look at Elder Hua and the others. When he saw the Vice Alliance Master, he immediately frowned without leaving a trace. Then, he took the head deacon's corpse and disappeared without a trace. The pressure is so great. That's right. Just looking at it from afar, I can't help but shudder. On the other hand, not only is Qin Feiyang not afraid in the slightest, he is even chatting with him. His courage is truly admirable. Elder Hua and the others shook their heads. However, Qin Feiyang stood in the sky with his head lowered and brows furrowed. He seemed to be thinking about something. What's wrong? Everyone flew up and looked at him suspiciously. I just find it strange. Why did the ice dragon come to save the Grand Deacon? Qin Feiyang said. What's so strange about it? In the entire Sky Cloud realm, only we can match the strength of the Grand Deacon. For such an expert, if it were you, you would definitely find a way to save him. The Hall of Famers said. No. What I mean is, the Grand Deacon should have left his divine soul in the Blood Hall before he came. In that case, there is no need for the Blood Hall to let the Ice Dragon come to save him. Because even if the Grand Deacon dies in our hands, he won't really die. Qin Feiyang said. Hearing this, everyone was slightly stunned. They really didn't think about this before. The deputy leader said, I'm afraid this time, they didn't pay attention to the Divine Soul Blood Hall. Qin Feiyang looked at the deputy leader. First of all, this time they are confident of winning. Secondly, time is tight. Besides, for giants like us, unless we have no other choice, our pride won't allow us to do such a thing. The deputy leader shook his head and smiled. That's right. Just like us, we didn't make such arrangements in advance before we came. Elder Hua nodded. In that case, is the Grand Deacon really dead? Qin Feiyang asked. If he really left his divine soul in the Blood Hall, he could have self-destructed without any hesitation when he was fighting outside. But he didn't. Doesn't this explain everything? Elder Hua smiled faintly. Qin Feiyang immediately laughed. Originally, he didn't care much about the Grand Deacon's death because he always thought that the Grand Deacon's divine soul would be resurrected even if he was killed in the Blood Hall. He didn't expect it to not happen. They had completely destroyed a sovereign-level divine weapon and killed a supergiant. Just as the Ice Dragon had said, this was a complete victory for them. However, even so, they couldn't be careless when facing the Blood Hall. Because the Blood Hall still had two supergiants, the Blood Hall Master and Elder High. In addition to their sovereign divine weapons, they also had the Ice Dragon's sacred sword. Moreover, he believed that after this lesson, the Blood Hall would definitely be more careful when facing them in the future. Most importantly, there was still the ice dragon. This ice dragon would definitely help the blood hall, such as increasing their strength and so on. All in all, they had to be more careful when facing the blood hall in the future. Let's go and continue drinking tea. Tell us about the situation in the Western mainland. Qin Feiyang said with a smile as he looked at Elder Hua and the other two Vice Alliance masters. Okay. The five of them nodded. Qin Feiyang and Madman were going to the Western mainland, so they had to understand the background of the Western mainland first. Boom. However, at this moment, a powerful aura suddenly erupted from somewhere in the Devil's Land. Qin Feiyang was shocked and quickly looked down. This seemed to be the aura of the law. This is the law of death. Madman and the vice leader said at the same time. Law of death? Qin Feiyang was slightly stunned and immediately rejoiced. There was actually another person who comprehended an ultimate law. This was really good news. Boom. Suddenly, a giant black hand rushed into the sky, emitting a monstrous aura. The first profound, hand of death. Madman looked at the giant hand in shock. It can't be, right? Who is so abnormal to comprehend the first profound right after comprehending the law of death? Qin Feiyang was also stunned. Clang! In the next moment, with a loud bang, another palm-sized death deity seal appeared. This is the second profound, death seal. Madman exclaimed. To comprehend two profound in one go, this was too ridiculous. Who was it? Qin Feiyang and Madman looked at each other and quickly looked below the death seal and hand of death. Their expressions immediately froze. In the herb field below, there was a beast figure lying on the ground. Who else could it be but the white-eyed wolf? It was actually the white-eyed wolf who comprehended the law of death and comprehended two profound at once. This must be a joke. How could there be such an abnormal thing? Chapter 3275. Sure enough, everyone here is a monster. No, you can't use common sense to judge these guys. Elder Hua and the others were also shocked. Boom. However, at this moment, as the law of death continued to appear, a huge domain appeared, and there seemed to be a roar coming from it. This is the third profound, world of death. Madman shouted. What's going on? Even if the white-eyed wolf comprehended the law of death, it couldn't comprehend three profound meanings at once. Not long after he finished speaking, another wheel-like existence appeared in the sky with a loud rumbling sound. The fourth profound, wheel of death, everyone murmured. Clang. Soon. The fifth profound, gates of hell also appeared. This, Qin Feiyang and the others were completely dumbfounded. It had comprehended the fifth profound already? That's not right. The white-eyed wolf's cultivation is only at the peak undead stage. This doesn't make sense. Boom. In the next instant, a dark red waning moon rose into the sky. The entire Devil's Land was dyed dark red, as if it was covered in a layer of blood. The aura of death shrouded the entire place, turning it into a purgatory. This is, the supreme profound, dusk of the gods. The vice leader looked at the waning moon in shock. Not to mention the white-eyed wolf's cultivation, how could it comprehend the supreme profound so quickly? It's crazy. It actually comprehended the profound meaning before I did? Madman roared. This was ridiculous. Elder Hua and the other two, the Hall of Famers, Yi Tian, the woman in green, Qin Feiyang, the mermaid princess, and Fire Lotus were all shocked, but they were even more confused. What's going on? Could it be that the white-eyed wolf had comprehended the law of death long ago and just didn't show it? But this didn't make sense. After comprehending the fifth profound, one's cultivation would step into the half-step ruler stage, and the white-eyed wolf was indeed only at the peak undead stage. Moreover, how could this supreme profundity be comprehended just like that? Boom! Right at this moment, the white-eyed wolf's aura also started to soar. In just a blink of an eye, it had entered the half-step sovereign realm. This is too strange, Qin Feiyang muttered. No matter what, he had to get to the bottom of this. Little Qin Zi, take this. Suddenly, the white-eyed wolf opened its eyes and bared its fangs. It charged into the sky and waved its claws. The 5 profound meanings of the law of death, in addition to the supreme profound, immediately attacked Qin Feiyang. You're asking for a beating. Qin Feiyang coldly snorted. The 5th profound of the karma law appeared. In the meantime, with a wave of his hand, a barrier appeared and enveloped Qin Feiyang and the white-eyed wolf. Their cultivation bases were not low, and they even possessed supreme profound skills. If they were not sealed by the barrier, the entire Devil's Land would be affected. Boom! Qin Feiyang waved his hand, and the 5-colored divine lotus attacked. With a loud bang, the 5 profound meanings of the law of death were shattered one after another. After all, Qin Feiyang's cultivation was far above the white-eyed wolf's. However, when the 5-colored divine lotus and the crescent moon collided, the two were actually in a stalemate. What? Qin Feiyang was stunned. His cultivation was at the early stage sovereign realm. The white-eyed wolf was only at the half-step sovereign realm. There was a difference of 2 small realms between them, but it could actually compete with the 5-colored divine lotus. Was this the power of a supreme profound? Boom! In the end, the 2 profound meanings shattered at the same time in the void. Qin Feiyang retreated a few steps, his face slightly pale. What happened to the difference in realms? Even if it was a supreme profound, it shouldn't be so ridiculous. This was equivalent to crossing 2 small realms. So what if you're at the early stage sovereign realm? Your big bro can make up for this difference with just a single profound meaning. The white-eyed wolf stood in front of Qin Feiyang and looked proudly at him. Scram! Qin Feiyang's face darkened. He looked at the Vice Alliance Master and said, Master, what's going on? This is the power of a supreme profound. When facing a supreme profound, any 5th profound can crush it. Just like you and the white-eyed wolf. Although the law of karma and the law of death are both supreme laws, the lethality of a supreme profound is enough to make up for the difference in cultivation. In other words, the white-eyed wolf can rely on the supreme profound of the law of death to fight a early-stage sovereign realm expert. The Vice Alliance Master explained. So strong? Qin Feiyang was stunned. Of course. Otherwise, how could it be called a supreme profound? You're only able to fight it to a draw because you have the laws of karma. If it were any other profundities, such as your laws of thunder or the laws of slaughter, its supreme profundities alone would be able to crush you. The Vice Alliance Master shook his head. This was truly unbelievable. How could this white-eyed wolf comprehend a supreme profound so quickly? One had to know. Even in the Devil Palace and the Rogue Cultivator Alliance, there were many perfect sovereigns who hadn't comprehended a supreme profound. Some perfect sovereigns were even unable to comprehend a supreme profound their entire lives. Using the simplest logic, people like the Vice Alliance Master and Elder Hua could become an overlord if they comprehended a supreme profound. One could imagine how difficult it was to comprehend a supreme profound. Moreover, generally speaking, the beings of the sky cloud realm would only start comprehending a supreme profound after their cultivation reached the perfect sovereign realm. However, this white-eyed wolf in front of them was still at the perfect undead realm. How could he comprehend a supreme profound? No matter how they looked at it, it didn't make sense. Wolf cub, what's going on? Qin Feiyang looked at the white-eyed wolf with a puzzled expression. Let me tell you, if you don't tell us the truth today, then don't be merciless and we'll torture you. Qin Feiyang also stepped into the barrier and stared at the white-eyed wolf with hostility. Just the two of you? The white-eyed wolf said with disdain, this brother can kill you in a matter of minutes. Is that so? Qin Feiyang and Madman looked at each other and rubbed their palms together as they surrounded the white-eyed wolf. Damn, you're really coming? Let me tell you, don't force this brother. Otherwise, this brother will cripple you. The white-eyed wolf roared fiercely, but his feet kept retreating. How could he not know Qin Feiyang and Madman's strength? Facing the two of them together, he was afraid that he wouldn't be able to deal with them alone. Qin Feiyang and Madman turned a deaf ear to him, their faces full of malicious smiles. All right, all right, all right. The white-eyed wolf hurriedly waved his claws and said helplessly, I'm really scared of you. This is related to this brother's third innate ability. Third innate ability? Qin Feiyang was stunned. Madman knew because he had seen the white-eyed wolf take away the Grand Deacon's law of death. That's right. You all know that the first and second innate abilities are to take away one's battle soul and cultivation. The third innate ability is to take away the law of death. Just like the first and second innate ability, as long as this brother takes it away, the other party will lose it forever. The white-eyed wolf chuckled. Take away the law of death. Not to mention Qin Feiyang, even Elder Hua and the others couldn't help but feel shocked when they heard this. How could there be such a heaven-defying innate ability in this world? And to lose it forever. This was too perverted. Elder Hua suddenly remembered that when he first entered the ancient castle, he sensed a threat from the law of death from the white-eyed wolf's cultivation room. It turned out that it was because of the white-eyed wolf's innate ability. Wait. Even if your third innate ability can take away the law of death, what does that have to do with you mastering the law of death? Qin Feiyang frowned. That's right. Explain it clearly. Frenzied Wolf urged. Aren't the two of you smart usually? Why have you become dumb now? Previously, this brother took away the Grand Deacon's law of death. Now, I've mastered the law of death. Can't the two of you connect the dots? The white-eyed wolf was speechless. This, Qin Feiyang and Frenzied Wolf looked at each other. First, he took away the Grand Deacon's law of death. Then, he mastered the law of death. Wait. Could it be? The two of them were stunned. Do you still remember that I told you that I kept the Grand Deacon, Elder Hai, and the Hall Master of Blood Hall? And I also told you that they are the key for me to break through to the sovereign realm? The white-eyed wolf looked at Qin Feiyang. Qin Feiyang nodded and said in surprise, could it be that your third innate ability can? That's right. Compared to the first and second innate abilities, the third innate ability is fundamentally different. Although the first and second innate abilities can take away the other party's battle soul and cultivation, they can't be integrated into my body. However, the third innate ability can. In other words, I've integrated the Grand Deacon's law of death. That's why I broke through to the half-step sovereign realm and mastered the law of death. The white-eyed wolf smiled proudly. No wonder, Qin Feiyang and Frenzied Wolf muttered. Then, the two of them rushed in front of the white-eyed wolf and roared with envy, how can you have such an abnormal innate ability? This is too unfair. Others had to comprehend it step by step to slowly comprehend the law of death. However, the white-eyed wolf, this bastard, directly stole the law of death from others and integrated it with himself. Can't help it. Even the heavens take care of me because I'm handsome. The white-eyed wolf shook his head and laughed. Scram. The two of them had dark expressions. Why don't you go and look in the mirror? At the same time, the vice leader and the others also looked at each other. Stealing the law of death from others and integrating it with himself? Even for people of their status, this was the first time they had heard of such a terrifying innate ability. It was simply abnormal. If he continued to plunder like this, wouldn't he be able to step into the perfection sovereign realm within a day? The mermaid princess asked suspiciously, Big Brother Wolf, can you continue to comprehend the law of death by yourself after plundering the law of death from others? For example, comprehending the law of death's ultimate law of death? Of course. The white-eyed wolf smiled proudly. All right, I'm completely convinced. The mermaid princess shook her head helplessly. She had finally experienced the saying, comparisons are odious. Then why didn't you plunder before? Why did you wait until now? Fire Lotus also looked at the white-eyed wolf in confusion. The white-eyed wolf laughed and said, haven't I never met someone like the Grand Deacon before? Yes. Fire Lotus glanced at the vice leader, Elder Hua, and the others. Lass, why are you looking at us? Elder Hua's face darkened. You want this white-eyed wolf to plunder our law of death? Don't say it. Looking at the current white-eyed wolf, they were truly afraid from the bottom of their hearts. Chapter 3276. At the same time. When Fire Lotus vaguely mentioned Elder Hua and the others, the white-eyed wolf was quite cooperative. He looked at them with a fiery gaze as if he was looking at a few delicious drumsticks. Elder Hua and the others looked at each other and tacitly took a few steps back. It was better to keep a distance from this wolf cub. Don't be nervous. I can't deprive you of your power of laws at any time. First, I have to cripple your cultivation so that you won't have a chance to resist. Secondly, I won't attack my allies. The white-eyed wolf grinned. Hearing this, they heaved a sigh of relief. It's a pity that I didn't manage to capture Bloodhall's Hall Master and Old Sea. Otherwise, I would be able to plunder their supreme laws. At that time, with the supreme profundities of 3 supreme laws and the cultivation of a small stage dominator, I wouldn't even fear an ordinary perfect dominator. The white-eyed wolf shook his head regretfully. How greedy, specifically eyeing other people's strongest laws. Madman pursed his lips. Why didn't this guy comprehend the power of laws? It turned out that he was waiting for an opportunity to reap the fruits of others' labor. Nonsense, with such a good opportunity, of course I have to choose a good one. Otherwise, why would I wait until now? The white-eyed wolf rolled his eyes. Can't you fuse with anything? Then, let's first plunder a few types of power of laws and break through to the perfect dominator realm before slowly looking for prey like the Grand Deacon. Madman said. Yes. If you break through to the perfect dominator realm, then we can basically sweep the various forces in the sky cloud realm. Qin Feiyang nodded. How can it be that simple? My third ability only allows me to fuse with laws 6 times. The white-eyed wolf pursed his lips with an unhappy look. 6 times? Qin Feiyang and Madman were stunned. That's right. Although I can deprive others of their power of laws an unlimited number of times, I only have 6 chances to fuse with them. Every time I use it, I have 1 less chance. Then, I have to choose carefully. The white-eyed wolf chuckled. Qin Feiyang asked, so, you're only looking for supreme laws now? Of course. Furthermore, they have to have comprehended the profound meanings. This way, I won't have to waste my time slowly pondering that bullshit profound meaning. The white-eyed wolf said. That's enough. Qin Feiyang was speechless. If it were him, even if he only had 1 chance, he would still burn incense, let alone 6 chances. However, this white-eyed wolf actually had a look of displeasure on his face. As the old saying goes, you don't know how lucky you are. Then, can you comprehend new laws by yourself after fusing with other people's laws? Yi Tian could not help but ask. Of course. As long as I'm willing, with my talent, I can easily comprehend 10 or 20 types of laws. The white-eyed wolf raised his head like a proud little goat. 10 or 20 types? casually. The corner of Yi Tian's mouth twitched. Don't you know how to brag? Do you think that the power of law is a cabbage that can be found everywhere and can be picked up? However, the ability of the white-eyed wolf's third ability was really terrifying. 6 chances of fusion was equivalent to breaking through to the Perfection Dominator realm. If the white-eyed wolf really succeeded, with 6 supreme laws, plus the profound meanings of the 6 supreme laws, in the entire Sky Cloud realm, except for the Dominator divine weapon, who could be its opponent? Even if the 4 super forces and the Rogue Cultivator Alliance joined forces, they wouldn't be able to stop it. Qin Feiyang suddenly looked at the Deputy Alliance Master and asked, Master, how many people in the Sky Cloud realm have grasped the supreme laws and comprehended the profound meanings at the same time? This, the Deputy Alliance Master pondered for a while and said with a wry smile, I'm afraid only the big shots of the major forces have such people. Qin Feiyang nodded in realization and turned to look at the white-eyed wolf. In that case, if we want to fuse 6 supreme laws, we have to go to the major forces to find them. Cough cough. Elder Hua quickly coughed dryly, looked at Qin Feiyang and the white-eyed wolf, and said with a dark face, don't count us in. And us, don't count us in either. The Hall of Famers also had a straight face. Ha, Qin Feiyang laughed dryly and said, of course we won't do anything to our own people. The Deputy Alliance Master looked at Qin Feiyang and the white-eyed wolf, pondered for a moment, and said with a smile, if you really need it, I can give you the law of death. What? So generous? The white-eyed wolf looked at the Deputy Alliance Master in astonishment. One had to know. The reason why this old man could become the Deputy Alliance Master of the Rogue Cultivator Alliance was because of the law of death. Once he lost it, it was no exaggeration to say that he fell from the sky to the ground. It's fine. The Deputy Alliance Master smiled faintly. The white-eyed wolf looked at the Deputy Alliance Master and did not find the slightest bit of hypocrisy. He said telepathically, Little Qin Z, what's going on? Why does he suddenly seem like a different person? He took away the Grand Deacon's law of death and went to fuse with it, so he did not know what happened after that. It's like this, Qin Feiyang secretly explained. I see. The white-eyed wolf came to a sudden realization and grinned. At least you have some conscience. As for your law of death, forget it. I've already mastered the law of death. Even if you take it away, I can't fuse with it anymore. You mean, you can't fuse with the same law of death? Qin Feiyang asked. Of course. How can you fuse with it when you already have it? The white-eyed wolf rolled his eyes at him, then looked at the sky and chuckled. If only I could fuse with an ultimate law of death. When everyone heard this, their faces were all stunned. A supreme law of death was already invincible, but he still wanted an ultimate law of death? This wolf cub was indeed greedy. 6 supreme laws is still possible. As for the ultimate law of death, it's better to give up on this idea as soon as possible. As far as we know, no one in the Sky Cloud realm has comprehended the ultimate law of death. Chu Yun looked at it with disdain. Then it seems that the Sky Cloud realm is not that great. The white-eyed wolf muttered in disdain. Several big shots rolled their eyes. They finally understood that this wolf cub was even crazier than Qin Feiyang and Madman. Suddenly, the white-eyed wolf looked at Qin Feiyang and Madman and asked, by the way, when are you going to the Western continent? Why? The two were suspicious. Nonsense, of course we're going to find the Blood Hall Master and Old Dog Hai. After we plunder their strongest law, we'll have 3. At that time, we'll go to the Sacred Palace and Deity's Palace to take a look. Don't say, it's really not that difficult. The white-eyed wolf grinned at the group of people. Hearing this, the group of people smiled bitterly. When others heard about these super forces, they would take a detour, but this guy was actually targeting them. Moreover, he was targeting the super giants of the 3 major forces. Fortunately, the giants of the three major forces weren't here. Otherwise, if they heard the white-eyed wolf's words, they would probably turn hostile on the spot. Qin Feiyang pondered for a while and looked at the white-eyed wolf with a smile. Old Hai and the Blood Hall Master will definitely not let them go. As for the Sky Hall and Deity's Palace, let's talk about it later. By the way, Master, what's the strongest law that the Blood Hall Master mastered? It's the law of time. The vice leader said. The law of time. The white-eyed wolf's eyes suddenly lit up. He then looked at Qin Feiyang and asked, if I remember correctly, Old Hai's strongest law seems to be the law of time and space? Qin Feiyang nodded. Awesome. The law of time and space. Alright, our first target will be them. The white-eyed wolf immediately became excited. Don't worry, they won't be able to escape from our hands. Frenzy smiled coldly. Then let's go down. When we understand the situation in the Western continent, we'll prepare to set off. Qin Feiyang smiled. At that moment, the group of people flew to the tea garden below. At the same time, the Blood Hall. In a large hall, Old Hai and the Blood Hall Master looked at the headless corpse lying in the center of the hall. Their hands were clenched together, and their eyes were filled with anger. I swear, I will never let you go. Suddenly, Old Hai roared, shocking the entire Blood Hall. He then looked at the Blood Hall Master and said, I have a plan. The Blood Hall Master took a deep breath, looked at Old Hai, and asked, what plan? Ice Dragon said that the vice leader was sitting with Qin Feiyang and the others. This means that this person must have betrayed us. We can ignore Qin Feiyang and Frenzy for the time being because they will come to the Western continent sooner or later. However, since this vice leader is no longer useful, we can't let him have an easy time. Old Hai's eyes were filled with resentment. Alright, go and make the arrangements. The Blood Hall Master waved his hand weakly. The defeat this time was a huge blow to him. Even now, he no longer had the confidence to deal with Qin Feiyang. Old Hai looked at the Blood Hall Master, hesitated for a while, and asked, do you regret it? The Blood Hall Master nodded. It's useless to regret because this is not something we can choose. Besides, now that we have come to this point, we can only brace ourselves and go on. Besides, didn't Ice Dragon say that? He will send someone to help us. Although I don't know who it will be, I believe that the person he sent will not be weaker than us. Old Hai said in a deep voice. Although what he said is true, I'm a little scared when facing Qin Feiyang. This kid's mind and shrewdness have reached the point of despair. The Blood Hall Master sighed. Yes. To be honest, I'm a little scared too. However, we have to believe in Ice Dragon. Qin Feiyang and Frenzy are indeed terrifying, but can they be compared to Ice Dragon? If we work for him, the final winner will definitely be us. Old Hai said. That makes sense, but I don't understand. Since there is such a deep hatred and he can easily kill these two people, why didn't Ice Dragon kill them directly? The Blood Hall Master frowned. This is not something we can speculate about. We just have to follow orders. Old Hai shook his head. Alright, you go and make the arrangements. I will think about how to deal with Qin Feiyang's revenge. The Blood Hall Master waved his hand. Alright. Old Hai nodded his head, then turned around and left quickly. The Blood Hall Master pondered for a moment, then suddenly raised his head to look at the sky outside. His eyes flickered with blood as he muttered, Qin Feiyang, my Blood Hall has lost again, but I guarantee that this will be the last time. Then, he took a step forward and disappeared without a trace. Chapter 3277. On the same day, there was an earth-shattering news from the eastern continent. The deputy leader colluded with the Blood Hall to kill the disciple Qin Feiyang and plotted against the leader to seize the position of the leader of the Rogue Cultivator Alliance. Everyone had the right to kill him. One could imagine. Once this news came out, how big of a storm would it cause in the Eastern continent? And the most important thing was that there were 2 videos that spread throughout the major cities. One video was of the deputy leader and a black-robed man standing in an ice valley, discussing how to plot against the deputy leader. The other video was also of the deputy leader and the black-robed man discussing how to deal with Qin Feiyang. If it was just a one-sided story, no one would believe it easily. But these 2 videos were undoubtedly irrefutable evidence. For a time, the major cities of the Eastern continent were in a heated discussion. Many people expressed their disbelief. They never thought that the deputy leader would do such a thing. At the same time, the Rogue Cultivator Alliance also fell into chaos. Especially the higher-ups. I don't believe that the deputy leader would do such a thing. Someone must be spreading rumors to ruin the reputation of our Rogue Cultivator Alliance. Go and investigate immediately. We must find out the source of the news. The 9 elders sat in the conference hall. The deputy leader and the Hall of Famers were not around, so naturally the great elder was in charge of the overall situation. At this moment, the great elder's face was full of anger as he looked at the other 8 elders and shouted. Immediately, the 8 elders moved out one after another and went to the major cities, especially the 4 super cities like the Wind Sea City, to secretly investigate. But no matter how they investigated, they could not find out the source of the news. Black Tortoise World. A day outside was 1,000 years in the Black Tortoise World. Although it was not a day outside, many years had passed in the Black Tortoise World. The deputy leader and Elder Hua had already explained the situation in the Western continent. Of course, they only talked about the basic situation. For example, the location of the Blood Hall, the famous experts in the Blood Hall and so on. In short, it was basically about the Blood Hall. As for the other things, one had to know that the Western continent was not inferior to the Eastern continent in all aspects. If they really wanted to explain it in detail, they would not be able to finish it in 180 years. Qin Feiyang and Frenzy did not need to be so detailed. They only needed to know the general situation of the Blood Hall. Originally. After saying all this, the Vice Alliance Master and the others prepared to leave. However, Qin Feiyang strongly urged them to stay and asked them to stay for a while longer. Of course, the reason why he left the 5 of them behind was not to get close to him. After all, with the current relationship between Qin Feiyang and the 5 of them, there was absolutely no need for that. He kept the 5 of them for the Mermaid Princess, Fire Lotus, Tang Hai, the Blood Kirin, and Xia Yuan. Although Qin Feiyang and the madman had already comprehended 6 or 7 types of laws, the others were far from enough. For the time being, not to mention the amount of law energy, just the 5th profound, aside from Qin Feiyang, the madman, Qin Batian, and Lu Zhengyang, no one in the Devil's Land had comprehended the 5th profound. In other words, except for Qin Feiyang and the other 3, the others were only at the Great Circle imperishable stage. Of course, the white-eyed wolf was an exception and could not be counted. Therefore, Qin Feiyang asked the Vice Alliance Master and the others to stay. Because the 5 of them were all giants of the Eastern continent, and their understanding of the law energy was unparalleled. If he could persuade them to guide everyone in their cultivation, it would undoubtedly be a great fortune for everyone. The Vice Alliance Master, Elder Hua, and the Hall of Famers were, after all, Qin Feiyang, the madman, and Fire Lotus's master. As the saying goes, love the house and its crow. It was nothing to guide others in their cultivation. However, the Demon Hall Master and Chu Yun were not so easy to talk to. After all, for big shots like them, it was a great honor to casually give a few pointers, let alone sit down and teach face to face. Therefore, in order to keep them, Qin Feiyang said a lot of good things. In the end, relying on Qin Feiyang's sincerity, the two of them finally agreed to stay. So, an unprecedented exchange meeting unfolded in the Devil's Land. The 5 super giants took turns to explain their understanding and comprehension of the power of law to everyone. The previous exchange meeting organized by Qin Batian and Lu Zhengyang couldn't be compared to this one. Because their levels were different, the things they explained were also different. Many of the mysteries explained by the 5 of them were things that no one had heard of before. And the 5 giants personally taught them, so this was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Therefore, whether it was the people of the Devil's Land or the beasts, no one was absent. Even Qin Feiyang and the madman arrived on time and listened attentively. However, there was an exception. This exception was the white-eyed wolf. In the first 2 days, it still went to listen. But soon, its face was full of impatience. It could obviously reap without sowing, so why did it have to spend so much effort to figure it out by itself? Therefore, when others were listening, it was sleeping soundly. When others were comprehending the mysteries, it was lying in the medicinal field, basking in the sun and drinking the black tortoise divine brew. Those days could only be described with one word: leisurely. Every time they saw it, everyone had the urge to rush up and beat it up. Others said that the gap between humans was huge, but why was the gap between humans and wolves so huge? But there was no other way. It was useless to be envious and jealous, they still had to work hard. Buzz. On this day, after the vice leader finished explaining the law of fire, he was about to get up. But at this moment, the voice transmission stone rang. The vice leader was taken aback for a moment. Looking at everyone who was comprehending with their eyes closed, he got up and quietly left the castle. Standing at the side, he took out the voice transmission stone. The Great Elder's shadow appeared. "Where are you now?" The Great Elder looked very anxious. "What's wrong?" The vice leader looked at him suspiciously. The Great Elder urged, "Hurry back, the Rogue Cultivator Alliance is in a mess now." "In a mess?" The vice leader frowned. "Yes." The Great Elder nodded and told him about the news that suddenly appeared in the Eastern continent, as well as the 2 videos in detail. Hearing this, the vice leader fell silent. "Great Elder, you don't really believe these rumors, right?" Suddenly, a voice sounded behind the vice leader. The vice leader turned his head and saw Qin Feiyang walking out of the castle, looking up at the Great Elder's shadow with a smile. "You're here too." The Great Elder smiled. "An master is teaching us how to cultivate." Qin Feiyang smiled slightly. The Great Elder looked at the master and disciple and sighed, "Seeing you two together, I am convinced that this is a rumor, but there are 2 videos to prove it, others don't believe it." "It's okay, we will deal with this matter later, you don't have to worry." Qin Feiyang comforted with a smile. "All right. Hurry up and deal with it, if this drags on for too long, it will have a bad impact on our Rogue Cultivator Alliance." The Great Elder said. "Got it." Qin Feiyang nodded. "Then that's it for now." After the Great Elder finished speaking, he turned off the voice transmission stone. "Feiyang, the vice leader put away the voice transmission stone and looked at Qin Feiyang with an extremely depressed expression. What he was afraid of still happened in the end. Qin Feiyang smiled and said, "Master, I will deal with this matter, you don't have to worry." "Thank you." The vice leader looked at him gratefully. If it weren't for Qin Feiyang, he really wouldn't know what to do in such an emergency. At this moment, Yi Tian and the woman in green also ran over. Qin Feiyang looked at the 2 of them and said with a smile, "Looking at you two, you should have received the news." The 2 of them nodded. Just as they were about to speak, the Hall of Famers and Elder Hua also walked over. Obviously, they had also received the news. The Hall of Famers looked at Qin Feiyang and asked, "Do you really have a way? This is actually very easy to solve." Qin Feiyang smiled. Very easy to solve? They were slightly stunned. Qin Feiyang nodded and turned to enter the ancient castle. Looking at the fire dragon who was comprehending the profound laws with his eyes closed, he transmitted his voice, "Brother, let's go out for a while." As for Frenzy, Qin Feiyang didn't disturb him. Because Frenzy's law of slaughter was only one step away. This time, with the guidance of the 5 giants, with his comprehension ability, he should be able to successfully break through. Black Dragon and Fire Luan were also comprehending, so they naturally wouldn't comprehend other laws. After all, they were already perfect dominators. What they needed now was to comprehend a supreme profundity or an ultimate law. Only then would they be able to strengthen themselves from the roots. Fire Dragon opened his eyes and looked at Qin Feiyang suspiciously. Qin Feiyang secretly explained the situation and then said, "I need your cooperation." "All right. But remember, I'm doing this for your sake. And you have to promise to help me save the leader and my parents." Fire Dragon said inwardly. "I promise." Qin Feiyang nodded. Elder Hua took a deep breath and followed Qin Feiyang out of the ancient castle. They walked to the vice leader and the others. Qin Feiyang looked at Elder Hua and the others, he cupped his hands and smiled, "I thank you on behalf of everyone for your careful guidance during this period. After teaching for so long, it should be about time. Don't be so polite. If you really want to thank us, then no matter where you go in the future, you have to claim that you are a disciple of my Devil Hall." The Devil Hall Master said. "Of course, I am a member of the Devil Hall." Qin Feiyang smiled faintly. "That's more like it." The Devil Hall Master smiled. Qin Feiyang waved his hand and brought everyone to the sky above the sea. Although a long time had passed in the Black Tortoise world, it hadn't even been a day in the outside world. The battle waves hadn't calmed down, and there wasn't a single sea beast in the sea within 100 million miles. "Hall Master, young lady Chu Yun, you can go back first. As for Elder Hua, I still need to borrow him for a while." Qin Feiyang looked at the Devil Hall Master and Chu Yun and smiled. The Devil Hall Master and Chu Yun glanced at Elder Hua, then opened a space-time transportation channel and left. Elder Hua also had a trace of doubt on his face. Qin Feiyang then looked at the Vice Alliance Master and smiled, "Master, you should bring Big Brother Yi and the others back as well." "All right." The Vice Alliance Master nodded and opened a space-time transportation divine tool, leading Li Tian and the green-clothed lady in. "What about this old man?" The Hall of Famers looked at Qin Feiyang suspiciously. Qin Feiyang smiled faintly and said, "If I keep you here, I will definitely need your help." The Hall of Famers was stunned and asked doubtfully, "How can I help?" "Just stand beside me." "Elder Hua, the same goes for you. You don't have to say anything." Qin Feiyang smiled faintly. Elder Hua and the Hall of Famers exchanged glances. What is this brat trying to do? Chapter 3278. Qin Feiyang didn't stay any longer. He opened the gate of time and space and brought the fire dragon and Elder Hua in. At the same time, Cloud Sea City. In the sky above the plaza in the center of the city. Clang! A deafening sound suddenly rang out. The passers-by immediately stopped and looked up. They saw the void distort, and a stone door flickering with divine light opened. That seems to be a teleportation divine artifact. Who came to our Cloud Sea City with such fanfare? Everyone looked at the stone door suspiciously. Soon. 3 people and a dragon stepped out of the stone door. They were Qin Feiyang, Elder Hua, the Fire Dragon, and the Hall of Famers. It's them. What's going on? Why did Qin Feiyang appear at the same time as Elder Hua and the Hall of Famers? Isn't the Demon Hall and the Rogue Cultivator Alliance enemies? Everyone's expression suddenly became startled. Whoosh! Accompanied by the sound of something breaking through the air, a middle-aged man landed in the sky above the plaza. It was Zhuo Tiansheng. Greetings, Hall Master. Zhuo Tiansheng bowed to the Hall of Famers. He was extremely puzzled. Why was the Hall Master with Elder Hua? Yes. The Hall of Famers nodded and looked at Qin Feiyang silently. Where's I? You're not bowing to me? The Fire Dragon raised his eyebrows. You are? Zhuo Tiansheng looked at Elder Hua suspiciously. Ahem. The Hall of Famers coughed and looked at Zhuo Tiansheng. Let me introduce you. It's the son of the 2 divine beasts of our Rogue Cultivator Alliance. 2 divine beasts? Zhuo Tiansheng was stunned. Suddenly, he seemed to have thought of something and said in surprise, You mean the 2 divine beasts by the Alliance Master's side? That's right. The Hall of Famers nodded. Zhuo Tiansheng's heart trembled. He quickly bowed and said, Greetings, Lord. That's more like it. The Fire Dragon nodded in satisfaction. What? It's the descendant of the 2 divine beasts of the Rogue Cultivator Alliance? I've long heard of these 2 divine beasts. Their strength is not weaker than the Alliance leader of the Rogue Cultivator Alliance. As their son, the Fire Dragon has appeared at the same time as Qin Feiyang, Elder Hua, and the Hall of Famers. Why is that? Could it be related to the Vice Alliance leader? But even so, what does it have to do with Elder Hua? People discussed in low voices, their faces full of doubt. Everyone, quiet down for a moment. Let me say a few words. Qin Feiyang glanced at the people below and suddenly smiled. Even though his voice wasn't loud, it swept through the entire city, and the entire city fell into deathly silence. Qin Feiyang smiled and said, Just today, a piece of news suddenly appeared in various cities of the eastern continent. It said that the Vice Alliance Master colluded with the Blood Hall, killed his disciples, and plotted against the Alliance Master. Moreover, there were 2 videos as proof. So, I came here for this matter. Are you the one who testified against the Vice Alliance Master? Someone asked. Testify? Qin Feiyang was slightly stunned. We've already heard about your exchange in the Heavenly Cloud Ocean. Moreover, we already know that you're the Vice Alliance Master's disciple, Mo Yuan. And you and Madman Mo disguised yourselves and infiltrated the Rogue Cultivator Alliance to investigate the Vice Alliance Master. Now that you're here, if not to testify against him, then what is it for? Everyone was asking questions at the same time. Indeed. Senior Brother Madman and I infiltrated the Rogue Cultivator Alliance to investigate the Vice Alliance Master. Moreover, through this investigation, we know more about the Vice Alliance Master's situation than all of you. Now, I officially announce that the news that appeared today is completely a rumor. Qin Feiyang said. Rumor? Everyone looked at each other. They thought that Qin Feiyang was here to testify, but they never expected that he was here to help the Vice Alliance Master. I know that all of you must be thinking that since it's a rumor, how do you explain these 2 videos? It's actually very simple. Let a person disguise himself as the Vice Alliance Master, and he can forge these 2 videos. Qin Feiyang smiled faintly. Forgery? According to what you said, someone framed the Vice Alliance Master? Someone asked. Qin Feiyang nodded and said, That's right, regarding this point, the Fire Dragon beside me can testify. Everyone immediately looked at the Fire Dragon. Fire Dragon glanced at Qin Feiyang and nodded, the matter between my parents and the Alliance Master has nothing to do with the Vice Alliance Master. Hearing this, everyone immediately became restless. Since even the son of the two divine beasts, the fire dragon, had personally denied it, then it definitely had nothing to do with the Vice Alliance Master. Moreover, everyone was basically Qin Feiyang and the Vice Alliance Master's grudge, so there was no reason for them to speak up for the Vice Alliance Master. Then who wanted to frame the Vice Alliance Master? Could it be the Devil Palace? Don't say it. It really could be the Devil Palace, because by doing so, the Devil Palace would benefit the most. When Elder Hua heard these discussions, he immediately blew his beard and glared. Of course it can't be the Devil Palace. I had long thought that there might be people who would link this matter to the Devil Palace, so I specially invited Elder Hua to come with me. I believe everyone knows about Elder Hua's status and identity in the Devil Palace. Therefore, the fact that he is standing here right now is the best proof. As for myself, to be honest, I have already reconciled with the Vice Alliance Master, and we are still master and disciple. I believe everyone has some understanding of my character. If the Vice Alliance Master is really such a person, I, Qin Feiyang, will definitely not recognize him as my master. Qin Feiyang smiled slightly. Everyone nodded. This person was indeed not bad. Take what happened in the Wind Sea City as an example. Yi Yuan bullied men and women in the Wind Sea City, and Madman Mo took action and killed Yi Yuan. There was also Qin Feiyang. In order to protect the babies in the Wind Sea City, even though his cultivation was not as good as Yi Tian's, he still stood up and fought with Yi Tian. It could be seen that whether it was Madman Mo or Qin Feiyang, they both abhorred evil. Not to mention anything else, at least in their hearts, there was still a little bit of kindness. If it's not the Devil Palace, then who is framing the Rogue Cultivator Alliance? Everyone frowned. It's very simple. This is the Blood Palace's doing. Qin Feiyang's eyes flashed with a cold light. The Blood Palace? The Blood Palace's doing? Everyone was shocked. That's right. I believe everyone should already know that I have a blood feud with the Blood Palace. During the exchange meeting in the Heavenly Cloud Ocean, Senior Brother Feng Zi and I killed 3 of the Blood Hall's genius disciples in succession and even seized their supreme-grade heaven-defying divine artifacts. So, this caused them to harbor hatred in their hearts. So, they forged these 2 videos and slandered the Vice Alliance Master, trying to sow discord between us and make the Eastern continent fall into chaos so that they can reap the benefits. It can be said that the Blood Palace's intentions are worthy of death. Qin Feiyang shouted angrily, killing intent surging in his eyes. Damn the Blood Palace. This is too much. We must not let them off easily. Hearing Qin Feiyang's words, everyone roared with righteous indignation. Everyone, be reasonable. This is just Qin Feiyang's side of the story. Suddenly, a voice sounded in the crowd. Qin Feiyang immediately looked in the direction of the voice and saw a middle-aged man standing in the crowd, looking up at Qin Feiyang and the others. Seeing Qin Feiyang looking at him, the middle-aged man was not afraid at all and asked, "Can't I question it?" "Yes." Qin Feiyang nodded. "That's good. Since you said that the Blood Palace is spreading rumors, then what about the Alliance Master of the Rogue Cultivator Alliance and the Fire Dragon's parents? Where are they now? Can you ask them to prove it in person? Because only the person involved can be convincing." The middle-aged man said. "That's right. Since it's a rumor, then the Alliance Master and the 2 divine beasts must be fine now. Why don't they come out personally to refute the rumor?" Everyone was puzzled. Qin Feiyang looked at the middle-aged man with deep meaning, then looked at everyone and sighed. The Alliance Master and the Fire Dragon's parents did have an accident. What accident? Everyone was suspicious. They were schemed against by the Blood Palace and died in their hands. On this point, the Hall of Famers and the Fire Dragon can testify, but this matter is too important, so the Rogue Cultivator Alliance has not announced it to the public. Qin Feiyang sighed. What? They died in the hands of the Blood Palace? Everyone was dumbfounded. Yes. The Hall of Famers and the Fire Dragon looked at each other and nodded at the same time. Although they didn't know what Qin Feiyang was going to do, since they had agreed, they naturally had to cooperate. When the middle-aged man heard this, he roared, "Nonsense, the Blood Palace didn't kill them at all," but before he finished, his expression froze and he quickly covered his mouth. At the same time, Qin Feiyang's eyes also locked on the middle-aged man and sneered, "How do you know that the Blood Palace didn't kill them at all?" The middle-aged man looked quite flustered, but he pretended to be calm and said, "Can't I guess?" "You said it so confidently, is it still a guess?" "The Alliance Master and the Blood Palace are the only ones who know whether they are dead or not." "You actually said that they are not dead at all." Such a confident tone, what does this mean? Moreover, it's impossible for the ordinary members of the Blood Palace to know such a secret. Qin Feiyang smiled coldly. The middle-aged man panicked and quickly turned to leave. Elder Hua and the Hall of Famers looked at each other and immediately understood what Qin Feiyang meant. This person should be the Blood Palace's Eagle Claw in the Eastern Continent. The two of them attacked at the same time and rushed toward the middle-aged man. Seeing this, the middle-aged man was shocked and immediately rose into the sky. He used a heaven-defying auxiliary divine art and flew away at lightning speed. What? Elder Hua and the Hall of Famers were shocked. With their cultivation, they could naturally recognize the heaven-defying auxiliary divine art's grade at a glance. It was a supreme-grade heaven-defying auxiliary divine art. Moreover, judging from his speed, his cultivation was definitely at the great perfection sovereign realm. "Don't let him escape!" Qin Feiyang shouted. "Don't worry, he won't be able to escape." Elder Hua smiled coldly and the time law rolled out. However, at the same time, the middle-aged man waved his hand and opened a space-time crack. He entered it without looking back. Space-time law? Elder Hua and the Hall of Famers were stunned again. Great perfection sovereign realm, supreme-grade heaven-defying auxiliary divine art, and control of the space-time law, Qin Feiyang muttered and a figure appeared in his mind. He looked at the space-time transmission channel and sneered, "Old Hai, I didn't expect that the Blood Palace's Deputy Palace Master would do such a despicable thing. Aren't you afraid of being laughed at?" "What? He's the Blood Palace's Old Hai?" Everyone was shocked and looked at the space-time transmission channel. You're tuning into the Xiaofan's Wuxia Tales YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.